Yo, Atlas speaking and welcome to part 7 of What If I Was Reborn in the Naruto world as Obito Uchiha with the Universal Gamer System. Let the tale begin. Chapter 121, Obito's Chilling Scheme. The Raikage glanced at Daryl and instructed. When we return to Kumogakure, issue a bounty for that kid. Put him on the hit list. Daryl nodded, asking. Got it, boss. How much should the bounty be? The Raikage paused in thought before stating a number. 50 million Ryo. 50 million? Daryl exclaimed, clearly taken aback. However, recalling Obito's terrifying strength, he quickly realized that 50 million wasn't excessive. On the journey back, Daryl silently compiled the intel he gathered on Obito. Uchiha clan origin. Apprentice of the 4th Hokage. Possesses the lava release Kekkai Jinkai. Proficient in Sage Mode. He also needed to come up with a distinctive nickname to help identify Obito. Recalling Obito's increasingly crimson lava armor when in Sage Mode, Daryl murmured as if struck by inspiration, let's call him Red Armor. T/N, that's a pretty cool nickname. Back in Konoha. As the Kumogakure forces gradually retreated, the Konoha shinobi erupted in cheers. Obito deactivated Sage Mode and the Lava Release Chakra Mode, stretching lazily as he said to Kakashi. Well, that wraps things up here. Let's head back and report to Minato-sensei. Kakashi patted Obito on the shoulder and, in a rare show of appreciation, said, You really pulled through this time, Obito. Before Obito could respond, the next moment, the two of them appeared in the Hokage's office. Minato, who was supposed to be recovering in the hospital, was meticulously handling paperwork instead. Seeing his two disciples suddenly appear, Minato seemed to have anticipated this, a faint smile playing at his lips. Well? How did it go? Fill me in. Obito puffed out his chest and boasted. Your disciple here gave the Raikage a good beating. He's promised not to make war with Konoha for the next 10 years. Suddenly, Obito slapped his forehead. I knew I forgot something. He turned to Kakashi and said, Kakashi. We left that Kumogakure shinobi at the border. Meanwhile, at the border, a lone Kumogakure shinobi was trembling as he looked around. He was surrounded by Konoha shinobi, all of whom wore expressions that made it clear they were up to no good. Just as things looked bleak, Kakashi arrived in time to escort him away, saving him from what could have been an unfortunate fate. Hokage's office. After Obito finished recounting the events, Minato gave him an approving smile. Good work, Obito. Go rest now, leave the rest to me. Obito grinned sheepishly and nodded. Thanks, Minato-sensei. As he left the Hokage's office, he hummed a strange tune to himself. Wagging tails and sniffing, eating snacks and drifting. His battle with the Raikage had made it clear to the latter that Konoha wasn't as weak as it might seem. This led to the 10-year truce proposal. Of course, whether the Raikage would honor the agreement was another matter. If Kumogakure ever thought it could suppress Konoha, they would undoubtedly attack again. But that was a laughable thought to Obito. In a few years, we'll be so advanced we'll be piloting Gundams. I could solo your whole village. T/N, Gundams are iconic giant humanoid robots, mecha. Besides, this trip had yielded more than just peace. Obito focused on the system interface in his mind and asked. Hey, system, did you make any money this time? The system replied excitedly. Ka-ching! Made some nice profits. Ding! To thank the host for your continued support, we're awarding you one random S-rank lightning release jutsu. Please reply confirm to claim your reward. Obito's eyes lit up. Confirm. Congratulations. You've obtained lightning release, Monkey Thunder. Monkey Thunder, an S-rank jutsu that summons monkey-shaped lightning to attack enemies. Obito felt something was off about this technique but couldn't quite put his finger on it. Still, my theory worked out, he exclaimed. During his downtime while the system had been inactive, Obito had been pondering the nature of Heaven's will. Knowing the timeline, he understood that the next 10 years would largely be a transitional phase for the plot. Heaven's will wouldn't permit individuals so powerful that they upset the world's balance. As the system explained, Heaven's will was like an overbearing boss. If you wanted to go against it, you either paid a bribe or got booted out. Obito's current power and altered fate were due to the system greasing the wheels with Heaven's will. So, Obito had reasoned, what if I beat up all 5 Kage and push the plot into overdrive? Would Heaven's will loosen its restrictions on strength? With that in mind, he challenged the rakeage. And it worked. The system earned some cash. System, actually, I made a ton, but no need to tell the host. Feeling smug, Obito muttered to himself. See? All those novels I read paid off. If this world was a fanfiction, then Heaven's will was a cowardly author afraid of running out of plot. And if the author was stalling, the solution was obvious: create chaos and force them to escalate. With that strategy in mind, Obito laughed triumphantly until his laughter suddenly ceased, his expression turning grave. If all of this is coming true, then... He glanced upward, a hint of terror creeping into his eyes. The next day, Obito slept in until noon, finally emerging from his room when his stomach growled. A familiar figure turned to him with a smile. Obito, long time no see. Obito's face lit up in surprise. Shizzle! You're back? Shursui nodded warmly. Yeah, I just got back to the village and thought I'd visit you and Grandma. Then, with a hint of regret, he added, Sorry I missed your engagement ceremony with Rin. Obito clapped a hand on Shizur's shoulder. Haha, don't worry about it. Just don't miss the wedding? Shizzle nodded solemnly. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Grandma chuckled as she called from the kitchen. Alright, you too, the food's getting cold. Go wash up and sit down to eat. The two nodded eagerly. Got it. Chapter 122, The Immortal Warrior, Kakuzu. After the family finished their meal in a harmonious atmosphere, Grandma retired to her room to rest. Obito led Shizzle out of the house, aimlessly wandering the streets. He glanced at Shizzle beside him and spoke thoughtfully, Shizzle, it seems like your vision is deteriorating. Shizzle was startled at first but then smiled bitterly and nodded. Yes, during this recent mission, I encountered some troublesome enemies. Obito nodded without pressing further. When I get the chance, I'll get some of Hashirama's cells for him, Obito thought silently. Come to think of it, Shursui's Kodo Ematsukami in this life is much more effective than it was in the last. Back then, his trump card was little more than a passive skill for Naruto. The Land of Bears. In a dim underground bounty exchange office. 5 million Ryo bounty for the red armor. Uchiha Obito. Why does this name sound so familiar? The staff member looked at the ledger, his face puzzled. Wasn't there something like Ham Obito? Red Armor Obito. Ham Obito. Are they related somehow? He set the ledger down and picked up another book. After skimming for a few moments, his confusion cleared. Oh, turns out they're the same person. He chuckled. Must have changed the moniker after advancing his bloodline limit. Twaigakure has a bounty of 10 million Ryo, and Kumogakure has 50 million Ryo. That makes it 60 million Ryo altogether. He snorted, closing the ledger. Ha, a brat with a bounty higher than mine? Ridiculous. At that moment, a tall, muscular man in a black robe stepped inside, hauling a corpse over his shoulder. The man wore the headband of Takigakure with a horizontal slash and a black mask that concealed his face, leaving only a pair of emerald green eyes visible, cold and emotionless. Damn. The staff member instinctively tensed. Flashes of information about this man flooded his mind. Former S-rank missing nin of Takigakure. The immortal warrior who once attempted to assassinate the first Hokage Kakuzu. Kakuzu flung the corpse onto the counter, making the staff member jump. 2 million Ryo, Kakuzu said coldly. The staff member carefully flipped through the ledger and hesitated. Kakuzu-sama, but this bounty is only worth 1.8 million Ryo. A flicker of irritation flashed in Kakuzu's eyes. He scanned the staff member up and down, his gaze causing the man to break out in cold sweat. Schoolyard. Bounty, 500,000 Ryo. The staff member, Schoolyard, felt cold sweat streaming down like a fountain. Trembling, he quickly counted out 2 million Ryo and handed it to Kakuzu. Kakuzu-sama. Here is 2 million Ryo. Kakuzu took the money, meticulously counting every note. Not bad. It's exactly 2 million. Seeing Kakuzu stow the cash away, Schoolyard finally sighed in relief. But in the next moment, he froze in shock as Kakuzu's arm detached and pierced his chest like a spear. Ga. Kakuzu hefted the still-breathing Schoolyard over his shoulder and strode out, heading toward the next bounty exchange office. Another 500,000 Ryo. Not bad at all, Kakuzu mused with satisfaction. As for the vault filled with cash inside the exchange office, Kakuzu didn't even glance at it. He prided himself on being an ethical bounty hunter, earning his money through honest blood and sweat. Dirty money? He had no interest in such things. At the next exchange office, when the staff saw Schoolyard, still in his uniform, draped over Kakuzu's shoulder, they nearly fainted in terror. Kakuzu-sama. I'll give you everything. Just spare me? Kakuzu scanned the trembling man, his eyes full of disdain. The man froze. What's with that look? Is he judging me? I'm a professional assassin known as the Silent Shadow with a 5,000 Ryo bounty, for crying out loud. Of course, he wasn't foolish enough to argue with Kakuzu. After verifying the corpse, he silently handed over 500,000 Ryo. Kakuzu accepted the cash, counted it meticulously, and a rare smile appeared in his green eyes. The staff member was dumbfounded. Does this cold-blooded guy even know how to smile? As Kakuzu pocketed the money, he asked, "Has your bounty list been updated recently?" The staff member nodded furiously and handed him a booklet. "Yes, it's updated. Please take a look, Kakuzu-sama." Kakuzu flipped open the booklet. As he scanned its pages, his gaze locked on one name. This brat's bounty is 60 million Ryo. Closing the booklet, Kakuzu made up his mind. After completing his current contracts, he would head to the Land of Fire. 60 million Ryo is worth the trip. He etched the name into his memory, Uchiha Obito. The Land of Earth. In a barren wilderness. Uchiha Setsuna stomped her foot in frustration. Searching for so long and still no suitable target. This is infuriating. Kuratsuru smiled gently. My lady, there's no need to fret. You're still young, time is on your side. Setsuna snorted. Unlike you, I value every second. Seize the day and seize the hour, that's my philosophy. Beside them, the ever-silent black Zetsu suddenly opened his eyes, a wide grin spreading across his face. Lady Setsuna, I believe I've found a suitable candidate. Setsuna's beautiful eyes lit up with interest. Who is it? Your cousin Uchiha Obito, Zetsu replied. Setsuna's mind conjured the image of a certain street punk. Uchiha Obito? She vaguely remembered him, a relative she had only exchanged greetings with in passing. What makes him special? Setsuna asked. Zetsu shared the information he had just gathered. Uchiha Obito has awakened the lava-release bloodline limit and developed it to perfection. Moreover, he's mastered Sage Mode, drastically amplifying his combat strength. During a recent confrontation with Kumogakure, he fought evenly with the Reikage. Setsuna was stunned. Her cousin, only 17 or 18 years old, possessed such terrifying power? Even she, without her ocular jutsu, could not confront a Kage head-on. So, Obito is indeed a good candidate. Setsuna murmured, tempted by the idea. But the thought of him being her cousin made her hesitate. Chapter 123, Arrangements for Naruto. Over the past 2 years, Setsuna had not wasted any time. Her terrifying ocular technique had improved once again, albeit slightly. Hwanjinsen, an ocular technique that corrupts the opponent's will with a single glance. While preserving their self-awareness, it forces them to submit unconditionally to the user. Each time Setsuna activated Hwanjinsen, she consumed a seed of desire. Before leaving Kirigakure, her ocular power allowed her to maintain up to 20 seeds of desire simultaneously. To permanently assimilate Yagura Karatachi, she had consumed 10 seeds. Now, this number had increased to 25. Additionally, she discovered a new application of her ocular technique, implanting 5 seeds of desire, each infused with her intent, into a target to create a semi-permanent avatar. This technique rendered the victim unable to resist for a short time. Only Setsuna herself could dispel the effect, retrieving both her intent and the seeds of desire. Compared to permanent avatars, the semi-permanent version was more practical. Yet, to fulfill her vengeance, permanent avatars were indispensable. Thinking about this, she instinctively glanced at the figure beside her. Black Zetsu met Setsuna's gaze and chuckled darkly. Uchiha Obito would make an excellent choice. Is it your sentimentality for a fellow clansman that's holding you back, Lady Setsuna? Actually, among the group of kids who defected from Kirigakure, there were a few decent candidates, he continued. For instance, that little girl Terumi Mel. It's impressive she managed to notice something was off about the 4th Mizukage. TSK. Setsuna snorted softly. That Terumi Mel? She vaguely remembered her. Despite possessing 2 Kekkle Jankle, she was unremarkable in Setsuna's eyes. Permanent avatars were a one-time deal, and Setsuna wanted only the best. In the end, her hatred outweighed any fleeting sentiments. Uchiha Obito it is, she said coolly. Once I obtain the Rinnegan, I'll find a way to lure him out of Konoha. Konoha was no Kirigakure. Charging in recklessly now would be suicide. Just the Uchiha clan alone could smash her head in. Black Zetsu nodded with a sly grin. Understood, Lady Setsuna. Land of Fire, Konoha. After the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning signed a peace treaty, the shinobi world had quieted down once more. While covert conflicts persisted, on the surface, everything appeared calm. Even ANBU's missions had decreased significantly. Obito, suddenly finding himself with too much free time, felt restless. He spent most days thinking of ways to stir things up and drive the plot forward. That evening, after finishing his ANBU duties, Obito wandered aimlessly through the village streets. When he noticed the Hokage's office lights still on, his curiosity was piqued. Huh? It's so late, why hasn't Minato-sensei gone home? He wondered aloud. The village had been peaceful recently. What could have kept Minato-sensei working overtime? Intrigued, Obito hopped through the window into the Hokage's office. Minato was rubbing his temples, lost in thought. When Obito suddenly appeared before him, a smile broke across his face. Oh, Obito. What brings you here? Obito grinned cheekily. I was bored, so I thought I'd drop by. Sensei, is something troubling you? Minato chuckled and waved a hand dismissively. Not exactly troubling. He gestured for Obito to sit. Naruto is about to graduate. I've been trying to decide who should be his team leader, but I can't seem to think of a suitable candidate. Since you're here, why don't you help me brainstorm? Obito plopped down beside Minato, nodding in understanding. So that was it. Minato-sensei was stuck on this parental dilemma. It made sense. All parents wanted the best for their kids, after all. This wasn't nepotism, this was legacy building. Let me think, Obito said, rubbing his chin. After a moment, his eyes lit up. Sensei, how about Kakashi? Minato blinked in surprise. Kakashi? Obito nodded enthusiastically. There aren't many ANBU missions these days. Why not have him lead a team instead? His skills in taijutsu, ninjutsu, and tactics are top-notch. Plus, he's practically watched Naruto grow up. He'd be a perfect fit. Minato's eyes brightened as he considered the suggestion. He hadn't thought of Kakashi before but quickly realized how ideal he was for the role. After weighing the pros and cons, he nodded with satisfaction. Kakashi is an excellent choice. Naruto will be in good hands. After discussing the matter further, Obito left. Minato then opened a roster and began selecting teammates for Naruto. Naruto insists on being on the same team as Fugaku's son. Images of Uchiha Itachi filled Minato's mind. The boy was every bit as talented as his own son. His ability to master new jutsu rivaled Naruto's, and his maturity far exceeded that of his peers. Naruto would learn a lot from being on a team with him, Minato mused, writing Itachi's name beside Naruto's. But both of them are strong-willed, like Kakashi and Obito used to be. They'll need someone to balance them out. Recalling his students' younger days, Minato smiled fondly. A girl would be ideal. Let's see. He soon found the perfect candidate. Alright, this girl named Kokoro should do nicely. While Minato carefully arranged his son's team, Naruto was wandering the quiet streets of the village. The night was cold and empty, with only the occasional passerby hurrying along. With his hands in his pockets, Naruto hummed aimlessly as he strolled. Obito had taught him this hobby as a way to pass the time. Naruto suddenly stopped. Under a dim streetlight not far ahead, a little girl was kneeling on the ground, crying silently. Hands still in his pockets, Naruto swaggered over with a confident stride. Hey, little girl, what are you doing here? Why are you in a place like this? The girl looked up at him but said nothing. Her face was streaked with tears. Naruto scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Come on, don't just cry. Where's your home? The girl shook her head vigorously, sniffling. Naruto sighed, exasperated. Honestly, what a hassle, he muttered. Then, in a softer tone, he said, All right, come on. Taking the girl's hand, he patiently began helping her look for her home. Half an hour later, they stopped in front of an elegant mansion. The large gate bore the name Hyuga in bold characters. Naruto tilted his head, confused. With a house this big, why were you crying? He asked. My dad's the Hokage, and our house isn't even half this size. He crouched down to meet the girl's eyes. Promise me, no more crying, okay? The girl nodded earnestly, her innocent expression making Naruto laugh. He patted her head and grinned. All right, see you around. With that, he swaggered away into the night. The girl watched his retreating figure, her large eyes blinking thoughtfully as if she were deep in thought. Chapter 124, The New Generation Kage. Konoha. Outside Obito's room. A loud knock echoed through the hallway. Obito! Open up already! Obito groggily crawled out of bed, his head still in a daze. He had stayed out until late last night, and now, just as he'd fallen asleep, someone had come to disturb him. After taking a moment to gather himself, he jumped out of bed and trudged toward the door. I'm coming. As soon as he opened the door. Kakashi let out a sharp snort, stepping inside with his signature deadpan expression. Obito scratched his head in confusion. What's up? Why are you here so early in the morning? Kakashi frowned, clearly displeased. Was it you who suggested to Minato-sensei that I leave the Umbu and become a Jonin instructor? Obito nodded nonchalantly. Yeah, it was me. Kakashi leaned in closer, narrowing his eyes. Why? Obito shrugged, smiling. Because I think you'd make a great teacher. Kakashi blinked in surprise, his expression softening slightly. Still, he scoffed. That's just an excuse. Obito yawned, throwing an arm around Kakashi's shoulder. I'm serious. When have I ever lied to you? Besides, we've both watched Naruto grow up. Don't you want to guide him personally? Kakashi turned his head to the side, his tone ambiguous. I'll think about it. Obito raised an eyebrow. Wait a minute. Shouldn't you be on duty right now? Did you skip work just to find me? Kakashi's face darkened. Thanks to you, I'm no longer part of the Umbu. Obito couldn't hold back his laughter. Pfft. Ha ha ha. Minato-sensei sure moves fast. The look in Kakashi's eyes made Obito immediately stifle his laughter. A murderous glare was impossible to miss. Quickly, Obito waved his hands. All right. Don't get mad. Since you're free today, let's go out and walk around the village. After a moment of hesitation, Kakashi nodded. Fine. Since joining the Umbu, he'd rarely had the chance to spend time alone with Obito. Wait here for a bit, Obito said, grinning. Once Obito was dressed, the two of them stepped out onto the streets of Konoha. Spotting a convenience store, Obito's eyes lit up. Kakashi, let's grab some drinks and chat while we walk. Kakashi rolled his eyes but nodded in agreement. A short while later, each of them held a fizzy drink as they made their way to a quieter area. Some conversations were meant to remain between the two of them. As they walked, Kakashi suddenly pulled down his mask, downed his drink in one gulp, and swiftly put his mask back on. The movement was so smooth and fast that not even a three-tomo Sharingan could catch it. With his drink finished, Kakashi began talking. Has the third Hokage been fully focused on his investigation recently? Obito nodded lazily. Yeah, and Minato-sensei's been supporting him all the way. Kakashi's brows furrowed slightly. The third Hokage had willingly handed over the mantle to Minato, and now this was his only request. It was hard for Minato not to back him. Obito patted Kakashi on the shoulder, smiling. Haha, it's pretty normal, really. If something happened to you, I'd investigate just as thoroughly. Kakashi felt a warm twinge in his chest but still asked. Does he suspect you? The third Hokage had run countless simulations, eventually narrowing his suspicions to Konoha itself. He believed Danzo's downfall was the result of an inside job colluding with Amigakure. Obito shook his head, grinning mischievously. Nope. Right now, the third suspects you more than he suspects me. Kakashi froze, his face blank. What? How did I end up with this blame? Obito snickered. Think about it. You're the son of the White Fang, and you just joined the Umbu before everything happened. If you accidentally uncovered the truth about your father's death, wouldn't you have the motive? Sure, you didn't know Flying Thunder God at the time, but the third doesn't know that. Doesn't it make you look suspicious? After a moment's thought, Kakashi admitted reluctantly. It does. Kind of makes sense. Obito added with a grin, besides, your father died at the hands of Amigakure shinobi. Avenging him by orchestrating an attack using Amigakure? It's poetic. Kakashi felt his composure crumbling. When did I start becoming your scapegoat? Obito thought for a moment and then burst into laughter. Probably when you started reading that book. I'll never forget the look on your face. Remembering the embarrassing moment, Kakashi laughed too, eventually punching Obito lightly on the shoulder. After a while, Obito looked up at the sky and said softly. The truth is, the third has started questioning me about the Mangekyo Sharingan recently. Kakashi's heart skipped a beat. Maybe we should tell Minato-sensei the truth. If he knows everything, he'll find a way to help us. Obito shook his head, chuckling bitterly. It's different this time. I've already turned against my own. Obito feared no one truly. With his current abilities and dual camel, who could threaten him? What worried him was how people would see him if the truth of Danzo's assassination came to light. Kakashi couldn't help but argue. Danzo was corrupt and deserved what he got. You did it for the villager. Obito met Kakashi's gaze, his tone laced with irony. You know, Kakashi, that's the most ironic part. Danzo also believed he was doing everything for Konoha's good. He laughed, a hollow sound that sent shivers down Kakashi's spine. Obito continued, Tell me, how am I any different from Danzo? Kakashi couldn't respond, his mind reeling. Obito had only shared this with him because he understood the fragile nature of trust. If the truth came out, people in Konoha would start to wonder. Today, Obito eliminated Danzo for the sake of the village. What if one day, he decided they were the ones harming the village? Would his blade fall on them too? Trust would turn to fear. They would regard Obito with the same suspicion they once reserved for Danzo. Obito smiled faintly at Kakashi's silence. Perhaps, back then, Danzo felt the same as I do now. Chapter 125, Team Kakashi. Looking back now. Perhaps Shimura Danzo had truly been loyal to Konoha at the beginning. In his youth, he was honest, passionate, and full of ideals much like Obito is now. But after being entrenched in darkness for so long, constantly exposed to the most shadowy corners of human nature, he slowly succumbed to it. In the end, he became everything he once despised. Obito laughed maniacally. Now I've taken my first step into the abyss, just like Danzo. Do you think I'll end up becoming another him? Kakashi placed a firm hand on Obito's shoulder, locking eyes with him. Obito, stop saying such things. I'll always keep an eye on you. Even if you fall into the abyss, I'll jump in to pull you back out. Obito stopped laughing, his expression softening into a faint smile. As they grew older and their strength matured, Obito's mindset also began to shift. But none of this affected the deep bond of friendship between the two. After the heavy topic, the pair returned to the bustling streets. Obito hummed a tune from his previous life. Should old acquaintance be forgot, and never brought to mind. A month later. Konoha Training Grounds. In the gentle morning light, 3 youngsters arrived early. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy greeted the other 2 cheerfully. Itachi. Sister Kokoro. You're here too. A cute girl clenched her fists, her gray-white twin-tails trembling with frustration. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop calling me sister. P. Kokoro snapped, punching Naruto squarely in the shoulder. Ow! That hurts. Kokoro, a genin of the same rank as Naruto and Itachi, was cheerful and charming. Her crystal-clear eyes shone like the autumn sky. Still rubbing his head, Naruto grinned mischievously. But, Sister Kokoro, you are so much older than me and Itachi. Another punch landed on his head. You just don't know when to shut up. Ah! Stop hitting me! Naruto could have easily dodged Kokoro's attacks, but for some reason, he seemed to enjoy provoking her, likely a habit formed from someone's influence during his upbringing. As Naruto and Kokoro playfully bickered, Itachi watched quietly, not joining in. In the nearby woods, 2 figures crouched on a tree, watching the trio with great interest. Obito nudged Kakashi with his elbow. So, what do you think, Kakashi? Do you have what it takes to lead this little crew? Kakashi rolled his eyes. Does it matter if I do or don't? It's not like I have a choice. This is all thanks to you volunteering me for this gig. Why didn't you recommend yourself to Minato-sensei back then? Obito spread his hands in mock helplessness. I wanted to. But do you think Minato-sensei would ever trust me with Naruto? Let alone Kushina-sensei, she's had it out for me ever since. It all started when Kushina had unintentionally discovered that her son was becoming a little street rascal. The culprit behind it all? She didn't even need to ask, it was glaringly obvious. From that moment on, Obito found himself on Kushina's blacklist. Kakashi thought about it and realized Obito had a point, so he let the matter drop. Alright, let's get going. Obito patted Kakashi on the shoulder. Don't keep your students waiting, Kakashi-sensei. With a slight nod, Kakashi vanished and reappeared at the training grounds. Naruto grabbed Kakashi's arm enthusiastically. You're finally here. We've been waiting forever. Itachi observed the sudden arrival, his mind racing through the information he knew. Hatake Kakashi. Son of the White Fang of Konoha, an ANBU elite known as the Silver Flash. His mastery of Kenjutsu was unparalleled, and his lightning-style techniques were legendary. He even wielded the Flying Thunder God technique. Father said this young man, barely 17 or 18, was already as strong as him. And most importantly, he He was Minato-sensor's most trusted disciple. Itachi nodded slightly in respect. Kakashi-sensei. It's an honor. Kokoro followed suit, bowing with a bright smile. Hello, Kakashi-sensei. In her mind, however, she was a bit skeptical. This teacher had a cool entrance and seemed handsome enough, but he didn't look much older than herself. Could he really be that strong? Konoha year 51. Itachi, 74 years old. Naruto, 7 years old. Kokoro, 12 years old. Kakashi, 17 years old. Kakashi nodded slightly, his aloof demeanor making Kokoro purse her lips. This teacher seemed so cold he'd probably be hard to get along with. In reality, Kakashi was reflecting on how Minato had handled things back in the day. After some thought, he spoke calmly. Let's start with introductions. I'm Hatake Kakashi, your Jonin instructor. I enjoy reading. Author, oh, we get it. 3 days and 3 nights of reading. Say no more. Naruto eagerly introduced himself next. Imuzumaki Naruto. I love ramen, but my mom never lets me eat it. She says it's unhealthy. Itachi spoke plainly. Uchiha Itachi. I like my little brother. I don't have anything I dislike. When it was her turn, Kokoro smiled brightly. I'm Kokoro. I love all things cute, and I hate anything uncute like mangy dogs. With the introductions done, Kakashi pulled out 2 small bells, tying them to his waist. Now, we'll have a training exercise, a little test for you 3. A training exercise? Kokoro asked, surprised. As a civilian-born ninja, she hadn't heard of this. Meanwhile, Naruto and Itachi exchanged knowing looks. See these bells? Kakashi asked. If you can take them from me, you pass. Otherwise, you fall and I'll send word to the Hokage to have you sent back to the academy. Naruto looked horrified. Back to the academy? That's so lame. How are the 3 of us supposed to beat you, Kakashi nil? Kakashi adjusted his forehead protector and replied nonchalantly. I won't go all out, 30% of my strength should be enough for this. Naruto puffed up indignantly. Only 30% 7, now you're just underestimating us? He rolled up his sleeves, grinning. Fine. Let's see what you've got. Itachi, on the other hand, looked intrigued. Sparring with someone like Kakashi would undoubtedly be a valuable experience. Chapter 126, Itachi's Performance. Kakashi gave a calm hum of acknowledgement. Of course. Do you need some time to discuss your strategy? Itachi nodded slightly and spoke in a soft voice. Kakashi-sensei, please give us 20 minutes to prepare. Kakashi nodded again. Sure. He left the field to the trio and teleported back to his perch on a nearby tree. Obito yawned lazily. I regret coming to hang out with you. This is so boring. Kakashi shot Obito a glance and said, it's just a shadow clone. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Obito stiffened, his expression turning a little awkward. No way. How did you figure that out? Feeling a bit smug but keeping a straight face, Kakashi replied, I deduced it. Today is Rin's day off. There's no way your real self would be here. Shadow clone Obito coughed twice, looking slightly embarrassed. Ahem. You're as sharp as ever. I concede, Kakashi-sama. The scene shifted elsewhere. The real Obito was currently with Rin, chatting away. However, likely due to a recent streak of overtime, Rin wasn't in high spirits. Obito tried his best to engage her, but her replies were hesitant and sparse. The focus returned to the training field. Shadow clone Obito chuckled. Don't you think Itachi and Naruto are a lot like how we used to be? Recalling their younger days, a faint smile tugged at Kakashi's lips. Obito patted Kakashi's shoulder. Itachi's a good kid. With the right guidance, he'll become a pillar of Konoha. You should put in some extra effort. Maybe give him a little special training or something. It'll help build his sense of belonging. Kakashi raised a brow at Obito. Are you trying to pull strings for him? With a righteous expression, Obito declared, pull strings? That's such an ugly way to put it. This is called passing on the torch, Kakashi. Learn some respect. Kakashi rolled his eyes and decided to ignore him. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a book, handing it to Obito. Here. I brought this just for you. Obito took the book, visibly moved. Thanks, Kakashi. Kakashi pulled out another book for himself. Back to back, the two immersed themselves in their reading. Kakashi? Kakashi! Naruto's voice brought Kakashi back to reality. He blinked, realizing half an hour had passed. I only got through a few chapters. Kakashi muttered. Obito laughed heartily. Now you look just like me back in the day, losing track of time. Alright, you'd better get going? Obito chuckled. Kakashi nodded and disappeared in an instant. At the training field, Kakashi reappeared, looking calm as ever. Are you ready? Naruto nodded eagerly. We've been ready for ages. You took forever. Kakashi thought of a certain someone's favorite line and replied nonchalantly, I got lost on the path of life. Naruto blinked, 777. Kakashi reached into his pouch and pulled out a kunai, twirling it before gripping it firmly. Alright then. Let's begin. Before Kakashi finished speaking, Itachi, who had been silent all this time, raised his hands. His fingers blurred as he formed hand seals at an incredible speed. His throat bobbed as he spat out a cluster of flames. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Such fast hand seals. Kakashi's eyes narrowed as the flames scattered, streaking toward him in clusters. He shifted his footing 3 times in quick succession, narrowly evading the fiery barrage. Take this? A sudden shout came from behind. Kakashi glanced over his shoulder and saw Naruto charging at him, holding a Rasengan. Kakashi's mouth twitched. Since when did Minato-sensei teach him this move? Planting one foot firmly, Kakashi twisted his waist and caught Naruto's wrist mid-swing, tossing him aside. Boom! The Rasengan hit the ground, creating a small crater, and Naruto was thrown back by the shockwave. Obito, watching from the tree, burst into laughter. Haha! The fight continued. While Kakashi was dealing with Naruto, Itachi and Kokoro seized the opportunity to attack. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Itachi created a shadow clone. One clone hurled a barrage of shuriken while the other swiftly formed hand seals and spat out flames. Fire style, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw. The shuriken, wreathed in fire, filled the air like a cascade of fiery blossoms, beautiful yet deadly. In contrast, Kokoro's approach was far simpler. As a civilian-born kunoichi, she threw a shuriken and charged at Kakashi with a kunai in hand. Kakashi instinctively reached for his kunai but stopped himself, remembering this was a sparring session with his students. Earth style wall. 4 walls adorned with dog carvings rose from the ground, blocking all the attacks. Perching on one of the walls, Itachi looked down, but there was no sign of Kakashi inside the barrier. Not good. Itachi quickly turned toward Kokoro, only to see her sinking into the ground, leaving just her head exposed. Earth release, double suicide decapitation. Kakashi reappeared, shaking his head in mild disappointment. During that attack, I didn't see a shred of teamwork. If this is all you've got, you might as well go back to the academy for a few more years. Naruto scrambled to his feet, clenching his fists. Don't underestimate us. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto sent a clone charging at Kakashi. Kakashi slid in low, dispelling the clone with ease. Passion alone won't change anything. Kakashi noticed Naruto hadn't charged with his clone. Instead, he was running toward Kokoro. Meanwhile, Itachi stood in Kakashi's way, kunai in hand. Oh! A faint smile appeared on Kakashi's face. Interesting. Naruto slammed his hand onto the ground, shouting, "Wind release, vacuum blade." The ground cracked open, allowing Naruto to pull Kokoro free. On the other side, Itachi, struggling against Kakashi, performed a backflip to put some distance between them. Seeing Kokoro safe, Itachi called out, "Naruto, left flank." "I'll take the right." "Kokoro, provide range support." "Got it." "Understood." The three charged Kakashi together. In the end, with Kakashi holding back, the trio managed to grab the bells. Collapsed on the ground from exhaustion, the three heard Kakashi say with a rare smile, "Congratulations, you've passed the test. From now on, you're officially members of the team." Naruto cheered loudly. "Yes, Databeo." Chapter 127, Konan and Nagato. Kakashi glanced at the trio and said, "You all did well today. Go home and rest. At the same time tomorrow, we'll gather here again." "Got it," Naruto responded enthusiastically. He got to his feet and looked over at Itachi. "One-on-one practice? Let's spar for a bit." Itachi shook his head. "Not today. I've got something to take care of." Seeing Naruto's disappointed expression, Itachi tilted his head, considering. After a pause, he added, "My brother's sick. I need to go home and take care of him." Naruto's eyes widened. "Sasuke's sick? I'll come with you to check on him." Itachi hesitated briefly, then nodded lightly. "All right." Naruto waved at Kakashi and Shinko. "We're heading out then, Kakashi-sensei, Shinko-chan." Itachi also bowed politely. "Goodbye, Kakashi-sensei." "Goodbye, Shinko-san." With their farewells exchanged, the two left together. Shinko stood in place, wide-eyed. "Those two just left me here? Seriously?" She turned to Kakashi, grabbing his arm before he could disappear. Kakashi-sensei." Seeing his surprised face, Shinko offered an awkward smile. "Could you keep me company for a while? It's way too boring to go home this early." Kakashi was about to decline but hesitated as memories of this student's past surfaced in his mind. Her family once had 3 members. Both parents were ordinary chunin who had died in a war when she was only 8. Now, Shinko lived alone, just like he had once. Looking at her forced smile, masking her vulnerability, Kakashi found himself unable to refuse. "All right, fine." Shinko's eyes lit up with relief. "Thank you, Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi sighed, scratching his forehead protector. While he had left the ANBU and had plenty of free time, he had intended to spend it reading. "Ah, right, forgot about that guy." He glanced toward the nearby woods, and a voice promptly echoed from within. "Don't mind me. I'll dispel myself." Shinko blinked in curiosity. "Kakashi-sensei, who was that?" Kakashi replied casually, "Just a shadow clone of a friend, keeping me company today." Shinko's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Wow, you must have a great relationship with your friends, sensei." Kakashi's lips curled into a faint smile. "Yeah. I suppose you could say that." Half an hour passed, and Kakashi was deeply regretting his earlier decision. This girl. How does she talk so much? In this brief time, he'd spoken more than he typically did in half a year. And the topics, they had veered into bizarre territory. For instance, she was now recounting her first crush and innocent story involving holding hands and walking the boy home. But even so, it was enough to make Kakashi want to howl like a dog. Shinko finished recounting her tale and sighed dramatically. "And then we broke up." Kakashi stifled a laugh, nearly letting out a chuckle. Shinko glanced at him and asked, "Kakashi-sensei, do you know what it's like to be single for 2 years?" Faced with her expectant gaze, Kakashi pondered for a moment before replying seriously. "I've been single my whole life." "Could you clarify which 2 years you're referring to?" Shinko froze for a moment before bursting into laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha. Why are you laughing?" Kakashi thought, thoroughly exasperated. Communicating with kids these days felt impossible. Amigakure. Outside Akatsuki's hidden village, near a rundown slum. A striking figure appeared, standing out starkly against the dreary surroundings. She wore a black cloak adorned with red clouds, her hair styled in cute buns with a light blue paper flower tucked in. Just from the slim, elegant legs visible beneath her cloak, her identity was unmistakable: Konan. Carrying a bag of food, Konan walked into the slum with practiced ease. Yoon, Seelin, Tsubaim, Rukia. She called out to the children, conjuring a bouquet of paper flowers with a gentle smile. Having endured hardship as a child herself, Konan had a soft spot for war orphans. Whenever she had time, she would visit the slum to help the homeless children as much as she could. This was a task she used to share with Yahiko and Nagato, but with the two now preoccupied, Konan was the only one who still continued. "Is it Konan?" A few children rushed out at her voice, their eyes lighting up when they saw her. "It's really Konan." "Yay!" The children flocked to her, affectionately tugging at her cloak. Konan smiled warmly, patting their heads. She handed them the flowers and food she had brought. "These are for you." A girl named Rukia accepted the paper flowers, her face lighting up with happiness. "Thank you." She hesitated before adding timidly, "Could you do me a favor?" Konan crouched down, her gentle gaze encouraging. "Of course. What do you need, Rukia?" Emboldened by her kindness, Rukia gathered her courage and stammered, I want you to." Her words were abruptly interrupted by a cold voice. "Help me take Nagato's Rinnegan." Konan's heart sank. Before she could react, a flash of red light clouded her mind. In a secluded corner of Amigakure's hidden village, Nagato looked at Konan with a resigned expression. "What is it, Konan? Why did you pull me aside like this and insist Yahiko couldn't know?" "I still have paperwork to finish." Konan approached him with a mysterious smile. "You're so dense, Nagato. I told you it was something we couldn't let Yahiko hear." Nagato shifted uncomfortably, the proximity making him uneasy. "Konan, what are you trying to?" Konan placed her hands on his face, pulling him closer until their eyes met. Her voice dropped to a sultry whisper. "Nagato, I want your eyes." Chapter 128, Nagato and Setsuna. Konan gazed at Nagato with tenderness, her fingers lightly brushing his cheek. "Nagato, I want you." What? Nagato's thoughts came to a sudden halt. The woman he admired most was confessing to him out of the blue. Faced with such a situation, anyone would be momentarily stunned, and Nagato was no exception. And in that fleeting moment, the delicate hand resting on his face abruptly darted toward his eye socket. In a sweet yet chilling voice, she uttered words that made Nagato's blood run cold. "I want your eyes." Ah! Blood sprayed everywhere. A single violet eye fell into Konan's hand. How unfortunate. Outside the hidden Akatsuki village, Setsuna clicked her tongue in mild annoyance. Had Nagato not instinctively tilted his head at the last moment, there would now be 2 Rinnegan in Konan's possession. Nagato screamed in agony. A terrifying force suddenly erupted from him, blasting Konan away. Whoosh! Konan's body shattered into countless sheets of paper, fluttering to shield her from the overwhelming shockwave. The white paper scattered like snow before she reformed at a distance, blood dripping from her lips. Her voice was icy as she spoke. "Nagato, are you planning to kill this woman?" The appearance and voice were identical to Konan's, yet the demeanor and actions were entirely different. This person wasn't Konan. Nagato clutched his left eye socket, glaring at Konan with fury. "Who are you? What have you done to Konan?" Konan remained indifferent as she replied. "Who I am doesn't matter. What does matter is that those eyes are mine by right." Nagato's lone eye burned with hatred as he gritted his teeth. "So, it's you." Konan produced a container and placed the Rinnegan inside before tucking it away. She cast a cold glance at Nagato. If you don't intend to kill this woman, she can come find me herself. Once I have both Rinnegan, I'll return her unharmed. Consider the remaining eye a parting gift. Nagato's glare could have frozen fire, yet he dared not act recklessly. With Conan's life at stake, how could he gamble her safety? His voice was icy. If anything happens to Conan, I'll hunt you down and make you pay, even if it means tearing the world apart. Relax, Setsuna said, controlling Conan's voice. I have no desire to be your enemy. I only need one Rinnegan. Nothing more. With that, Conan's form dissolved into sheets of paper, scattering toward the horizon. Don't try to follow me. Oh, and... She smirked. That woman seems to have preferred someone named Yahiko. Nagato's fists clenched, his knuckles cracking audibly. Damn you. I'll uncover your identity? Outside the village, the drifting paper reassembled into Conan's form. Setsuna extended a hand, and Conan obediently handed over the container. Setsuna stashed it away, her lips curling into an emotionless smile. Heh. Easier than I expected. She glanced at Conan, her Sharingan glinting crimson. Well done, Conan. Now, rest. Thud. Conan collapsed lifelessly to the ground as the seed of desire controlling her dissipated. Setsuna vanished into the distance, her silhouette quickly fading from sight. Moments later, two figures emerged from the village, Nagato and Yahiko, both frantic with worry. There she is, Yahiko! Hurry! Even with only one eye, Nagato's Rinnegan proved more than capable. They rushed to Conan's side, Nagato carefully cradling her. After checking her pulse, he let out a heavy sigh of relief. She's alive. Thank goodness. Yahiko's expression was clouded with worry. Then why hasn't she woken up yet? Nagato winced, clutching his throbbing eye socket. She's fine. Her mind was forcibly invaded, and her spiritual energy has been drained. She just needs time to recover. Yahiko slammed a fist into the ground, fury blazing in his eyes. Those bastards! They used both of you as pawns. I'll tear them apart, piece by piece. Nagato remained silent, meticulously checking Conan for any lingering harm. Later that night, Conan jolted awake. Yahiko rushed to her side, pulling her into a comforting embrace. You're awake. Conan. She looked around frantically, clutching his sleeve as tears streamed down her face. Where's Nagato? Nagato! I heard him. I'm so sorry. Yahiko held her gently, patting her back reassuringly. This wasn't your fault, Conan. Nagato doesn't blame you. It's those monsters doing. I swear I'll make them pay. Meanwhile, in Setsuna's hidden base, she let out a relieved sigh as she removed the constricting bindings from her chest. Walking the ninja world in Uchiha, Madara's name came with its challenges. After all, one couldn't exactly claim greatness lies in embracing abundance, could they? Setsuna retrieved the container from her ample storage, staring disdainfully at the violet eye within. Uchiha Madara, what a joke! To fulfill your so-called dream, you turned your life into a nightmare and robbed me of everything. Someday, you'll realize it was all for nothing. With a mocking smile, she tossed the container aside. From the shadows, Black Zetsu emerged, deftly catching it. Oh, come now, Lady Setsuna. You shouldn't treat such treasures so carelessly. Setsuna snorted, flopping onto the bed. I'm not planning to use it. Have you found a suitable host? Black Zetsu grinned. Thanks to your efforts, I've located an ideal vessel in the land of grass. Setsuna pinched the bridge of her nose in exasperation. You've been snooping in my novels again, haven't you? Zetsu chuckled sheepishly. Well, I may have taken a peek during my downtime. With a huff, Setsuna closed her eyes, her mind already planning her next move. Looks like a trip to the land of grass is in order. But first... Her thoughts wandered back to the day's events. While controlling Conan, she had glimpsed a familiar figure in the woman's mind. A certain relative of hers. Chapter 129, Setsuna's Strategy. Within the intel provided by Black Zetsu, there was a surprising revelation. Obito had once trained under Jiraiya, making him something of a half-disciple. To think that he and Nagato had ended up connected through this shared history. Setsuna's brows knitted slightly. More importantly, my cousin actually. She muttered. He had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, and even more astonishingly, a space-time-related dojutsu. The dojutsu known as Kamui was downright monstrous. A flicker of relief passed through Setsuna's eyes. Thank goodness I didn't act recklessly back then. Had she made a move against Obito without knowing the terrifying extent of his powers, she'd likely have ended up a corpse. Setsuna rested her chin on her hand, deep in thought. My cousin is truly sharp. Just from scattered clues, he deduced that someone is manipulating events from the shadows. But I don't recall anything about the Rinnegan in the Uchiha clan's history, she mused, her white hair shimmering as she tilted her head in confusion. Her mind churned. Suddenly, a bold idea came to her. Since this cousin of hers shared a mutual animosity toward the manipulator behind the scenes with Nagato and the others, perhaps it wasn't necessary to assimilate him into her plans entirely. Could I pull him over to my side instead? She murmured. After all, during her travels across the shinobi world, she had been using the identity of Madara Uchiha, even speaking in his distinct voice. At critical moments, she could shift all blame to him, then find a way to extricate herself and join forces with her cousin to combat Madara's lingering schemes. Twirling a strand of her hair, Setsuna considered the feasibility of this plan. Perhaps at the right moment, I could leak some intel to him. Thanks to her dojutsu, there were ways she could bypass Black Zetsu and relay messages to Obito. It's a thought, but Setsuna eventually shook her head, dismissing the idea. Rather than placing her hopes in others, she preferred to wield power herself. If I could harness that terrifying dojutsu. A fire lit in her chest. With Kamui, she could finally unleash her full potential in her quest for revenge. But the fact that he's entrenched in Konoha complicates things, she muttered, closing her eyes to organize her thoughts about Konoha and Obito. After some time, her eyes snapped open, sharp and determined. Black Zetsu, Setsuna called. Moments later, a half-black, half-white humanoid figure emerged, resembling a walking carnivorous plant. What is it? Black Zetsu asked, bowing slightly. Barely containing her excitement, Setsuna asked, You mentioned before that the third Hokage is still investigating Danzo Shimura's disappearance, with the full support of the fourth Hokage. Is that correct? Black Zetsu nodded. Yes. Setsuna's fist slammed into the wall, cracking it as a grin spread across her face. Then what do you think would happen if the third Hokage discovered that my cousin was responsible for Danzo's death? Black Zetsu's expression twisted in surprise. Obito killed Danzo? This. Before he could finish, Setsuna cut him off, speaking as if to herself. Hiruzen Sarutobi would want to avenge his old friend, wouldn't he? Even if he didn't outright attack my cousin, he'd at least drive him out of Konoha. Black Zetsu mulled over the idea, then nodded. That's highly likely. Setsuna's lips curled into a cold smile. In that case, work with my clone to spread this rumor throughout the shinobi world. Black Zetsu leaned in, awaiting further instructions. After a moment's pause, Setsuna elaborated. Spread the word that Obito Uchiha awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and possesses a space-time-related dojutsu. Say that Danzo Shimura was killed by his bizarre abilities, leaving no trace behind. She smirked. As for his motives? Improvise. Make something up. Black Zetsu's smile mirrored hers. Understood. Framing someone who was already guilty. That was Black Zetsu's specialty. Konoha. Obito remained oblivious to the storm brewing in Amigakure, as well as the trap being laid for him. At the moment, he was casually chatting with Kakashi. You're saying Itachi awakened his Sharingan during this mission? Obito asked, surprised. Kakashi nodded. Yes. We encountered a tough enemy during the mission. To push them, I refrained from stepping in. When Naruto got injured, Itachi's anger triggered the awakening of his Sharingan. Obito leaned forward, intrigued. And then? What happened next? Kakashi thought for a moment. After the mission, Itachi realized Naruto's wounds had already healed. Obito. Obito had been pondering something peculiar for a while now, the strange dynamic between Naruto and Itachi. It wasn't just that they had a good relationship. It was as if there was an unseen force drawing them together. It made him wonder, could Itachi, due to his connection with Naruto, have somehow become the host of Indra's chakra? This curiosity had made Obito increasingly attentive to the two. By the way, Obito asked offhandedly, your team has a girl, right? Why haven't I heard you mention her? Kakashi coughed awkwardly. She's average. Nothing worth mentioning. Obito nodded, not finding it strange. Wait a minute, he said, frowning. Wasn't your mission classified as C rank? How did you run into enemy shinobi? Kakashi looked equally puzzled. That's what I've been wondering. The mission intel wasn't wrong, yet somehow, we encountered enemy ninja along the way. Obito clicked his tongue. He figured it was probably the classic protagonist's halo at work. No explanation needed. It was just the universe throwing trials at Naruto. The two chatted for a while longer until Kakashi abruptly stood up. Ahem. I have some matters to attend to, Kakashi said, turning to leave. Obito raised an eyebrow. What could a Jonin instructor possibly have to do besides training his students? Ignoring him, Kakashi vanished with a flicker. TCH. So secretive, Obito muttered, shrugging. He decided he'd use the free time to visit Rin. Last week, Rin's relatives had been staying over, cutting into his chances to spend time with her. Now that they were gone, he could finally catch up. It's been a while since I've been to Amigakure, Obito mused, checking the time. I'll spar with Rin for a couple of hours, then head there. They are probably still busy with paperwork. They won't be resting early anyway? Chapter 130, The Third Hokage's Reaction. Amigakure. Staring at Nagato's now empty left eye socket, Obito clenched his teeth and asked angrily. Nagato, what on earth happened? Calmly, Nagato recounted the events from a few days ago in detail, from Konan being controlled by a mysterious force to losing his Rinnegan to the unknown assailant. Obito fiddled with his fingers, his mind racing. If his guess was correct, the person who had acted was likely the successor chosen by Madara. Someone being used as a pawn, much like himself in the past. That technique capable of manipulating minds. Could it be the ability of the attacker's Mangekyo Sharingan? After all, Genjutsu from a normal Sharingan would never escape the detection of Nagato's Rinnegan. Obito's face darkened as he said, Nagato, you need to be extra cautious in the coming days. I have a feeling that someone in the shadows is scheming to overthrow the entire shinobi world. Nagato placed a comforting hand on Obito's shoulder and spoke softly. You need to be careful too. Don't shoulder everything on your own, we are here to help you. Obito looked at the gentle smile on Nagato's face and silently nodded. Nagato, I will retrieve that eye for you. For you, and for the entire shinobi world. Anger and frustration churned in Obito's heart. If not for the constraints holding him back, how could he allow himself to be in such a passive position? Perhaps it's time to make a change. A few days later, shocking news spread like wildfire across the shinobi world. The infamous darkness of the shinobi had met his end not in a glorious battle, but by the hands of his own. What's more, the Uchiha who killed him had awakened the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan. Do you think this rumor is true? The Mangekyo Sharingan? That eye hasn't appeared in decades. If it's real, I'll dig those eyes out myself. They'd fetch an incredible price. Ha, sounds like a death wish. You think you're stronger than the darkness of the shinobi? Shimura Danzo? Pfft, I could take him on any day. Even Namikaze Minato wouldn't stand a chance against me. How drunk are you? Go home and sleep it off, just don't put your pillow too high tonight. Konoha-gakur. Hokage's office. Minato stared at his student with a grave expression. Obito, I assume you've heard the rumors by now? Obito nodded silently. I've suppressed the rumors for now, Minato continued, but I need to ask you. He looked directly into Obito's eyes. Is it true? Obito chuckled softly. It's true, Minato-sensei. I'll explain everything to the third Hokage myself. With that, Obito's figure disappeared in an instant. Minato sat back at his desk, his expression complicated as he stared into space. Outside the third Hokage's office, Obito knocked lightly on the door. Come in, Hiruzen's calm voice sounded. Stepping inside, Obito knelt on one knee. The third Hokage puffed on his pipe, his face obscured by smoke. Obito couldn't discern his expression. Was it you? Hiruzen asked plainly. Obito replied without hesitation, it was me. The third Hokage nodded, turning to look out the window. I should have known. I should have known. After a deep drag on his pipe, Hiruzen spoke with a trace of melancholy. Danzo was killed by Amigakure Shinobi. You had no part in it. I will personally clear your name. He paused before continuing, for now, leave Konoha. Consider it a chance to avoid the fallout, and give me some time to process everything. While investigating his old friend's actions, Hiruzen had uncovered many of Danzo's schemes, some of which he had vaguely been aware of, but others. Every revelation was more shocking than the last. Hiruzen couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, my old friend deserved to die. But even so, Danzo had been his closest ally. Obito bowed deeply. Thank you for your magnanimity, third Hokage-sama. And for your guidance all these years. I've never forgotten your kindness. Hiruzen, hands clasped behind his back, said nothing more. As Obito left, he glanced back at the sorrowful figure of the third Hokage. Hiruzen stared out the window, as though seeing an image of Danzo. The man's eyes were half closed, his lips curled in a mocking smile. You're the sunlight, Hiruzen. I am the root in the shadows. That's how it is, isn't it? Memories of their youth flooded back, two comrades rebuilding Konoha, turning it into the strongest shinobi village once more. It's all my fault. Hiruzen clenched his pipe tightly. If I hadn't ignored your feelings, you wouldn't have fallen into darkness. It's all my fault, Danzo. Walking down the street, Obito's gaze was cold and shadowed. He was certain the rumors had been deliberately aimed at him. Coupled with the attack on Nagato and the control exerted over Konan, the mastermind is obvious. So, Madara's successor, Obito muttered with a smirk. Very well. Let's see what you're capable of. At that moment, a figure landed beside him, a voice filled with concern. Obito, what's going on? Turning to Kakashi, Obito's expression shifted to a light-hearted smile. It's nothing. Just some cowardly fool hiding in the shadows trying to mess with me. If they stay hidden, that's fine. But now that they've shown their hand, I've got a lead. Kakashi frowned. Cut the jokes. Tell me everything, now. Use the Jinjutsu space. Obito was about to decline when Kakashi grabbed his wrist, his tone unyielding. I'm not asking, Obito. Do it. Startled by Kakashi's determination, Obito reluctantly activated his Sharingan, transporting them into his Jinjutsu space. Inside, Obito revealed nearly everything to Kakashi, withholding only details about the system and his own origins. Kakashi rubbed his forehead protector, deep in thought. What do you think their ultimate goal is? Since Obito had decided to come clean, he didn't hold back. Based on ancient texts and my own deductions, they're likely trying to summon the Ten Tails. Kakashi's eyes widened. The Ten Tails? Isn't that just a legend? Obito gestured to his eyes with a smirk. And the Mangekyo Sharingan isn't? Besides, with the Rinnegan already appearing, do you really think the Ten Tails is just a myth? Slowly, Kakashi nodded. If that's the case, then going after Rinnegan must be part of their plan to revive it. Chapter 131, White Mask Obito. The author didn't originally plan to write dumb villains, so Shana was intentionally made a bit nauseating. Obito continued speaking. The Ten Talls is the origin of all chakra in this world, a beast of calamity destined to bring about its end. Mastering its power would make one the equal of the legendary Sage of Six Paths. Kakashi touched his forehead protector, his expression grim. I won't even ask how you know all this. Do you have a way to stop them? Obito nodded and replied. That depends on how the Ten Tails is summoned. After some discussion, Obito solemnly said, "Till be leaving the village for a while. Can I trust you to look after my grandmother and Rin?" Though Camel was like a long-distance relationship cheat code, he knew that once he got busy, returning to Konoha often would be impossible. Maybe he could sneak back occasionally to leave a shadow clone behind? Kakashi frowned slightly and asked, "What are you planning to do?" Shrugging, Obito said, "Staying in Konoha is too restrictive. I can't deal with these people properly while I'm here. Now that they've exposed me, I might as well join the game and see how they like it." Kakashi sighed, pulling a kunai from his pouch and handing it to Obito. "I won't try to stop you. Just be careful. And don't go overboard." Grinning, Obito took the kunai and tucked it into his cloak. "Relax. I've got a sense of proportion. I never act recklessly." Kakashi let out a dry laugh. "You, Obito, truly don't know yourself. Take care. Stay safe." After parting ways with Kakashi, Obito sought out his cousin. "Shizzle, I'll be away from the village for a while. Try to spend more time with the elders when you can." Shizit looked at Obito with concern. "Cousin, is this related to those rumors?" As a member of the ANBU, Shizzle had, of course, heard the whispers. Ruffling Shizer's hair, Obito chuckled. "No, it's personal business I need to handle." Shizer's doubtful gaze made Obito sigh inwardly. Well, it's not his fault for being suspicious. After all, I've spent so much time fooling him before. "It's true. The third Hokage will soon clarify the rumors himself," Obito said. After reassuring his skeptical cousin, Obito returned home. Opening a small cabinet, he revealed a neat row of masks. Running his hand over them, Obito chuckled softly. "So, which one fits the occasion best? This one should do." He picked up a white mask and placed it over his face. Staring at his reflection, he smiled in satisfaction. Not bad. The white mask was adorned with sparse black circular lines and 3 comma-like holes, forming the shape of a 3-tomo Sharingan. As his Sharingan suddenly lit up, the mask seemed to come alive, exuding an aura of defiance and dominance. Draping a blue robe over his shoulders, Obito murmured, "I am no one, nor do I wish to be anyone. But starting now, I will reshape this world to my will." The third Hokage soon publicly addressed the rumors, dismissing them as malicious lies intended to sow discord in Konoha. Most villagers who were on good terms with Obito felt relieved. But a select few Kakashi, Shikayu, and Shizzle among them knew the truth was far more complicated. Yet, they chose to remain silent. Obito, of course, was unaware of this. By then, he had already left the village. He even took a leisurely stroll just outside Konoha's borders before vanishing into the wilderness. Obito's plan was straightforward. Since they wanted to force him out of Konoha, they must have ulterior motives, likely intending to ambush him. So he decided to play along, exposing his movements and waiting for them to make their move. "You want to fish me out? Fine. I'll follow the bait and see who catches who." The hunter often appears in the guise of prey. At this moment, both sides saw the other as the hunted. But until the final moment, who could truly say who was the hunter and who was the hunted? That night, Obito sat by a campfire, warming himself. A large rabbit hopped by, catching his eye. "What an adorable bunny!" A moment later, he sighed in mock sympathy. Out so late in the cold? Let me warm you up. 15 minutes later, Obito turned the rabbit over the fire, seasoning it with a grin. Smells amazing. As he ate, his thoughts drifted. If they dare come for me despite knowing I have Kamui, they must have some way to counter it. I should be wary of any strange dojutsu. Some ocular jutsu could bypass space and operate without a medium. Camel might not completely block such techniques. Though he had some resistance to the other's Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, Obito didn't want to gamble unless absolutely necessary. Once dinner was finished, he entered the camel dimension, sprawled on a small bed, and fell into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, back in Konoha, Kakashi returned home, exhausted. Looking at his empty bedroom, he fell into a daze. I'm pretty sure there used to be a bed here. Thanks to Obito, tonight a handsome guy could only sleep on the floor. While Obito slept, a ninja silently arrived at his campfire. Reaching out to feel the lingering warmth, they muttered. It's still warm. He should be nearby. Unit 18, notify the other squads and have them converge here immediately, the ninja instructed. The branches rustled as a figure dashed off into the distance. The next day, Obito emerged from the camel dimension, refreshed. Ah, that was a great sleep. He now stood miles away from his previous campsite. Using Kamui 2 obviously would be suspicious. A bit of physical travel makes the game more interesting and keeps them chasing their tails. That way, they'll take the bait without hesitation. Let's see who outplays who. Chapter 132, Obito's Assessment. In the following days, Obito freely roamed about, cloaked in his camel space. Behind him, dozens of shinobi struggled to keep up, their legs nearly giving out as they chased in vain. Through this aimless wandering, Obito managed to gather a rough understanding of their origins. He had observed them from a distance several times. Judging by their attire and equipment, they appeared to be members of Kirigakure's ANBU. Of course, there was always the possibility that they were from another force disguised as Kirigakure shinobi. Emerging from the camel dimension, Obito stretched his limbs leisurely. Alright, time to pick a lucky squad to start with. For the past 2 days, he had been circling around one squad, deliberately exposing his presence. Twice. If everything went as expected, they would soon trace him to his current location. Well then. Biting his thumb, Obito began forming hand seals. Boar dog bird monkey ram. Summoning jutsu. A puff of smoke appeared, quickly dispersing to reveal a massive toad, standing as tall as a full-grown adult. The toad carried 2 swords strapped to its back, one long, approximately a meter, and the other shorter, nearly 60 centimeters. This was none other than Obito's summoning contract, Toad Gameshin. Obito, I was in the middle of my meal, and you ***. Before Gameshin could finish his complaint, Obito handed him a freshly roasted piece of meat. Gameshin, come on, do I not know you well? I've already got food prepared for you. Obito grinned. But I do need a favor, just a little chopping. Got time? Gameshin accepted the meat, patting Obito on the shoulder with his webbed hand. Kid, you sure know how to treat your seniors. Alright, leave the chopping to me. Thanks! Obito chuckled. To avoid any unexpected setbacks, Obito planned to have Gameshin engage directly while he provided support from a distance. This way, even if something went wrong, Obito would have room to maneuver and salvage the situation. Better safe than sorry. Oh, by the way. Obito reminded him, leave at least one of them alive, I need information. Gameshin nodded, still chewing on his meal. Relax, I'll handle it. The pairman and Toad chatted as they shared the roasted meat, strengthening their bond. Not long after, Obito's figure vanished from his position. Through his sensory perception, he detected incoming enemies. He reappeared on a small hill some distance away, squinting toward the area he had just left. To his surprise, Toad Gameshin had burrowed underground, disappearing from view entirely. Damn, Obito muttered. Didn't expect Gameshin to be an Earth-style toad. 4 shinobi dressed in Kirigakure ANBU attire appeared at the scene. The leader spoke in a low voice. "Stay alert. The target should be nearby." One of the shinobi grumbled under his breath. "You said the same thing a week ago. We've run hundreds of miles, and we still haven't even caught a glimpse of the target." The leader's brow twitched in irritation. He glared at his subordinate. "Shut your mouth." If not for the mission, he would have happily silenced the man with his blade. Noticing the murderous intent in his superior's eyes, the subordinate wisely stopped talking. After all, in Kirigakure, killing one's own comrades wasn't exactly unheard of. While the two exchanged words, another ANBU member spoke up. "Captain, I found something." The group's attention shifted immediately. At that moment, a massive figure burst from the ground. Two-sword style. The long and short blades gleamed coldly as they sliced through the air in opposite arcs, cutting cleanly through the necks of two shinobi. Blood sprayed into the air. In mere seconds, the swordsman Toad had taken down two enemies. The bodies fell to the ground with a heavy thud. The remaining two ANBU members were horrified. What are you?" "Captain, that's not even human." Toad Gameshin said nothing, merely gripping his blades with an imposing aura that froze the remaining shinobi in place. From his vantage point, Obito's eyes lit up with admiration. Damn, Gameshin looks so cool right now. In truth, Gameshin was less focused on looking cool and more concerned about the situation. Crap, Obito told me to leave someone alive, but I already killed two. What now? After a moment's thought, he decided to leave the remaining two alive. Raising his blades, Gameshin leapt into the air, launching an aggressive assault. The two ANBU scrambled to defend themselves. But after a flurry of blades, Gameshin had thoroughly overwhelmed them, finishing the fight with a decisive combo. "Alright, I'm heading back to eat. Call me if you need me again." With that, Gameshin dissolved the summoning jutsu and vanished with a puff of smoke. Once the area was clear, Obito reappeared near the fallen shinobi. After confirming no further threats, he activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. He transported the two barely breathing ANBU into his Kamui dimension. The remaining survivors, pale and trembling, looked at him with despair. "Why you, stay back." Obito smirked, his Sharingan glowing ominously. "I'm not coming closer. Just watching." With a flash of red light, Obito delved into their memories. So they really are Kirigakure ANBU. He continued analyzing their thoughts. There's nothing suspicious about them, they haven't been manipulated. They're simply following orders from their direct superior. After finishing, Obito casually ended their lives, sinking into thought. Their memories don't reveal much. I'll need to catch a few more squads to confirm. Half a month later, Obito's camel dimension was littered with dozens of corpses. With Gameshin's help, he had wiped out 7 or 8 Kirigakure ANBU squads. After analyzing their memories, Obito muttered to himself. All of them received identical orders, despite belonging to different squads with different captains. The only one capable of orchestrating this is the fourth Mizukage, Yagura. A bitter smile tugged at his lips. Don't tell me my replacement decided to control Yagura as well? Obito couldn't help but feel pity for Yagura. That poor guy. Last time, I drove him to his death. Now that I've reformed, someone else is pulling the same trick on him. Talk about tragic. He flexed his fingers, deep in thought. If I want more answers, I'll need to head to Kirigakure. But... He frowned, considering the possibility. Could this be a trap to lure me there? Just as he had baltied the ANBU squads, it was entirely plausible that someone was setting a similar trap for him. Chapter 133, Scheming in Kirigakure. After much deliberation, Obito decided to make a trip to Kirigakure. But to play it safe, I'll need to make some preparations first. With a flicker of Kamui, he quietly returned to Konoha. Afterward, he traversed the Vold once more, arriving at the Akatsuki's hidden base. Navigating the familiar halls, he strode into Nagato's office. Nagato looked up in mild surprise. Obito, what brings you here? And about that recent news concerning you. Obito seated himself across from Nagato, his tone calm. Nagato, I'm here precisely because of that. If my guess is correct, the one pulling strings in the shadows against us is likely the same person. And details omitted for brevity. Obito then recounted his recent experiences and shared his deductions. Nagato frowned deeply after listening. You're saying the enemy might be controlling the fourth Mizukage? Obito nodded slightly. Exactly. And I have good reason to believe this individual is also a member of the Uchiha clan. Nagato was startled and instinctively said, that would explain it. If it's the Sharingan, then it makes sense. Indeed, the unique powers of the Sharingan were among the few abilities capable of eluding his Rinnegan. Even if that day, his condition had been less than optimal. Obito nodded again, his tone steady. Considering what you've told me, the opponent must have awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and possesses formidable Genjutsu-based ocular abilities. With the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, controlling a strong individual who lacks mental defenses isn't particularly challenging. Nagato's frown deepened. That's a troublesome situation. An unknown manipulator controlling a village leader was no small matter. Confronting this puppet master would essentially mean declaring war on the entire Kirigakure. Seeing Nagato lost in thought, Obito continued. Nagato, I plan to visit Kirigakure. Perhaps I can uncover something useful. But it wouldn't be wise to go alone. That's why I need your support. After a moment of contemplation, Nagato nodded, then hesitated. He pointed to his right eye, a faint hint of regret in his voice. Obito, I only have one eye left. I might not be of much help. Obito's heart tightened briefly, but he patted Nagato's hand reassuringly. Don't worry. Besides you, I've already enlisted another ally. Nagato raised an eyebrow in surprise. Who else have you recruited, little junior? A faint smile played at the corner of Obito's lips. My dear cousin Uchiha Shizit. In this timeline, Shisui had also awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Moreover, his awakened ability was entirely different from his past life's Koto Amatsukami. This time, Shisui's Mangekyo ability was named Betsugen Kami. It was a technique bearing some resemblance to his Anaji, yet vastly superior. Betsugen Kami, reverse causality, overturn the future. Capable of distorting reality within certain limits, rewriting the past according to the user's will. And that's the ability my cousin awakened, Obito explained to Nagato. After hearing the details, Nagato's eyes shimmered with envy. What an incredible power. I'm so jealous. Obito could only pinch the bridge of his nose, exasperated. You, with the Rinnegan, envying us all the time. Seriously? Of course, Dual Kamui was indeed enviable, but what could he do? Lend one to Nagato for fun? Nah, Kakashi's already waiting in line for that. Nagato rose from his seat. Walt here for a moment. I need to inform Yahiko and the others. Obito gave him an okay gesture. Sure thing. Half an hour later, Obito brought Nagato into the Kamui dimension. Shizzle was already waiting for them. Nagato smiled warmly and greeted Shizzle. Hello, Shizzle. I'm Nagato. Shisui quickly bowed slightly in response. Hello, Nagato-san. After brief pleasantries, the three turned to the matter at hand. Shizzle was the first to speak. Obito, are we setting off now? Obito nodded. Yes. The enemy may very well be deliberately luring us to Kirigakure. The longer we delay, the more time they have to prepare. Nagato mused aloud. Do you have a plan? Obito sighed with a wry smile. Honestly? No great plan. My idea is to bring the two of you and infiltrate Yagura's residence. We'll try to subdue him and lift the Genjutsu on him. If that fails... A sharp glint flashed in Obito's eyes. Then we'll kill Yagura outright. Nagato, you can then extract his soul and directly read his memories. Shizzle hesitated, his face troubled. Cousin, but... Obito placed a firm hand on Shizer's shoulder. Shizzle, this isn't the time for mercy. We're venturing deep into enemy territory, with danger lurking everywhere. We can't afford to be soft-hearted. Nagato chimed in. Obito's right. In battle, hesitation can cost lives. The enemy won't show us any mercy. Shizzle let out a heavy sigh before nodding firmly. I understand. Seeing Shizzle steel his resolve, Obito gave a satisfied nod. Then let's move out. Once there, we'll play it by ear. If the situation becomes untenable, we retreat immediately. A crescent moon hung in the sky, casting a pale and desolate light. The mist-shrouded village of Kirigakure was silent. A shadowy figure appeared in an instant, a red flash marking its presence before vanishing again. It should be just ahead. Obito murmured under his breath. Meanwhile, in a room within Kirigakure, a woman's eyes snapped open. Crimson light flickered with excitement. Finally, you've arrived, cousin, she whispered. This woman was none other than Setsuna. She had tampered with the ANBU sheets sent out earlier, leaving subtle marks on them. Anyone attempting to probe their memories would unknowingly pick up this mark. Marked individuals entering her proximity would trigger her awareness. Setsuna called this technique flower pollen. After all this preparation, it's time to see if I can take you down. Draping a cloak over her curvaceous figure, Setsuna turned her gaze toward the house opposite Yagura's residence. They were less than 10 meters apart. At Obito's current pace, he'd reach that house in less than half a minute. A shadow appeared silently behind Setsuna. Lady Setsuna, shall I intervene if needed? Setsuna turned to face Hokujo Kurohizen. No, just ensure my safety at the critical moment. Kuratsuru nodded solemnly. Understood. I'm prepared. Good. Setsuna turned back, watching as the space nearby began to warp. Chapter 134, Shocking Turn of Events. Obito controlled. Kirigakure. Inside Yagura Karatachi's residence. The air shimmered as an invisible spatial ripple formed. Three figures silently appeared, Obito, Shizzle, and Nagato. Before their forms fully solidified, an intrusive voice echoed in Obito's mind, sharp and grating. Option 1, kill the fourth Mizukage, a manifestation of Uchiha Setsuna. Reward, 3 Tall's chakra, fragmented, ... Option 2, kill the third Mizukage, a puppet of Uchiha Setsuna. Reward, water release wave crash strike. Option 3, kill Uchiha Setsuna, true body. Reward, double Mangekyo Sharingan strength. Obito scanned the options quickly, and his heart sank. This is a trap. In a room nearby, Setsuna's lips curved into a faint smile. At this range, she could seamlessly use her manifestation as a medium to activate her Mangekyo Sharingan ability Wanjinsen. The room housing Yagura was instantly bathed in red light. A seed, imbued with Setsuna's will, burrowed deeply into Obito's mind. In his consciousness, it quickly took root and began to grow. How fast can the human mind react? A single neural command can be transmitted in 1,000th of a second. Before Shizzle and Nagato could even sense something amiss, countless thoughts from Setsuna surged into Obito's mind, intertwining and merging with his own. If this fusion completed, even Shursue's Betsugen Kami would struggle to rewrite this reality. Just as Obito's consciousness began to waver and his sense of self unraveled, a thunderous roar erupted in his mind, like the shout of a stern elder watching over him. Obito, wake up! Clarity returned to Obito's eyes in an instant. His mental strength was almost on par with Setsuna's. If not for being caught off guard, he wouldn't have been overwhelmed so easily. Regaining his sense of self, Obito launched a fierce counterattack. Their minds clashed furiously, locked in a tug-of-war. Half a second passed in their mental battle. Shizzle had already sensed something was wrong. A black, 4-pointed shuriken took shape in his Sharingan. Betsugen Kami. A power capable of bending causality descended, its red glow enveloping Obito. Pop! 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 In Obito's mind, Setsuna's invading thoughts burst like bubbles, shattering instantly. Across the room, Setsuna's expression twisted with alarm. Not good. Retreat! Beside her, Kuratsuru didn't hesitate. Grabbing Setsuna, she leapt into the open maw of a massive clam behind them. The clamshell slammed shut, and with the aid of the reverse summoning technique, Setsuna and Kuratsuru vanished to a location far away. Back in Yagura's residence, Yagura knew the situation was dire. He immediately entered a partial-tailed beast state, his body shrouded in a crimson chakra cloak. Without hesitation, he launched a black and purple orb toward the trio. A tailed beast bomb. Nagato raised his hand, ready to unleash Shira-tensei, but Obito's Sharingan flared, and the tailed beast bomb was sucked into the void. Nagato couldn't help but glance at him with a tinge of envy. Ha! Yagura sighed, resigning himself to the situation. He deactivated his partial transformation and looked at Obito. Can we talk, cousin? Shizzle froze in surprise. Did he just call Obito cousin? Obito patted Shizzle's shoulder, signaling him to remain calm. Turning back to Yagura, he replied, go ahead. With the upper hand firmly on their side, a conversation wouldn't hurt. Yagura gave a self-deprecating laugh. This is the first time I've experienced a failed genjutsu. During the fusion, you must have seen my memories. Obito nodded slightly. When their thoughts briefly merged, he had indeed glimpsed fragments of Yagura's past. As he suspected, Yagura's tragic experiences mirrored his own, almost as if he were looking at another version of himself. But Obito hadn't expected this version of himself to be a woman. Seeing Obito's acknowledgement, Yagura continued. Everything that led to my downfall was orchestrated by that person. I want nothing more than to destroy everything he holds dear. But lacking the strength, I could only follow his orders while secretly seeking power. Obito waved dismissively, impatience creeping into his voice. I've heard enough. Woman, get to the point. Woman? Nagato and Shisui stared, dumbfounded. Yagura took a deep breath. I think we can work together. Obito sneered. Work together? You stole my friend's eyes, tried to claim my body for yourself, and now you want to work together? You could have approached us in secret, yet you chose the opposite path. Now that you've lost, you suddenly want to cooperate? Don't you think it's a little late for that? Yagura sighed softly. You don't understand how powerful he is. One day, you will regret this. Obito laughed maniacally, as though he'd heard the world's greatest joke. Regret? My hack youth has no room for regrets. Enough talk. I'll deal with this manifestation first, then come find you for a proper chat. Having seen through Setsuna's genjutsu, Obito knew Yagura was merely a manifestation. There was no way to reverse this. So, he'd kill her. But I should claim the reward first. System, I choose option 11. Yagura raised a hand. Wait a moment. Obito frowned, wondering what trick she was planning next. Yagura retrieved a small box from a cabinet and opened it in front of the trio. Inside was a booklet and a cluster of milky white cellular tissue. This contains all the information I have on him, as well as cells from the first Hokage. If transplanted. Before she could finish, her head exploded with a loud bang. Her headless body crumpled to the floor. In Obito's mind, the system chimed in. Host, you're too far. The system can't extract the Three Tails chakra from this distance. Oh, right. Obito quickly stepped closer. A higher dimensional force descended, drawing out the dissipating Three Tails chakra. Ding, option successfully completed. Reward obtained, Three Tails chakra, fragmented, ... Obito glanced at the system interface and saw his chakra reserves rise to 25 units. What? Obito's body shook with anger. System, come out here. I refuse to believe this is all the chakra you extracted. System? System? Damn it! Chapter 135, Buffing Up. Obito? Obito! Shirsue's voice echoed, snapping Obito out of his thoughts. Huh? What is it, Shirsue? Shizzle sighed in relief, his tense expression softening. You weren't saying anything for so long. I thought something happened. Obito let out a hearty laugh. I'm fine. Just lost in thought for a moment. This isn't the place to talk. Let's get out of here first, Obito suggested. The commotion from earlier wasn't overly loud, but it wasn't subtle either. It might attract Kiriticure's ninjas. Although the three of them had nothing to fear, unnecessary conflict wasn't worth the trouble. Understood, Shizzle replied without hesitation. Nagato and Shizzle had no objections. With a wave of his hand, Obito activated Camel, pulling the two of them in a small box into his dimensional space. Inside Camer's vault, Shizzle couldn't hold back his questions any longer. Obito, why did that person call you that? And, what's going on here? Placing a hand on Shizzle's shoulder, Obito spoke calmly. Shizzle, take a deep breath and listen carefully. I'll explain everything. The person behind Yagura was Uchiha Setsuna, someone of our Uchiha bloodline. Nagato's expression turned thoughtful. So Obito's hunch was correct. That person really was an Uchiha. But judging by what she said earlier, it seemed like she was just a pawn, manipulated by someone else? Shizur's shock was palpable. Uchiha Setsuna? I've even crossed paths with her before. How could she? Obito handed him a small notebook. Everything you need to know is written here. Take a look. Shirsue quickly flipped through the pages. Uchiha Madara, the Ten Tails, the Eye of the Moon Plan. Infinite Tsukuyami, a world of illusions, peace. When he finished reading, Shizzle remained silent, his hands trembling slightly as he passed the notebook to Nagato. It wasn't clear whether he was more shaken by Madara's grand ambitions or heartbroken by Setsuna's tragic circumstances. Nagato skimmed the notes, murmuring to himself. So that's it. That's what happened. Finally, he sighed deeply. To think I was the first pawn Madara chose. He used Yahiko's death to push me into his plans. But because of Obito, he had to abandon me and find a new puppet. Obito nodded. Exactly. Uchiha Setsuna became that pawn. Madara orchestrated a tragedy, one so devastating that she willingly became his tool. Nagato's expression darkened, conflicted. If that was true, then Setsuna was indeed a pitiable soul. And yet, the tragedy she suffered. It was all connected to him. Shizzle turned back to Obito. Obito, she offered to cooperate with us earlier. What do you think? Obito gazed into Shizur's eyes, understanding his soft-heartedness. Absolutely not, he said firmly. Someone willing to attack us once won't hesitate to do it again. Allies like that are too dangerous to trust. One day, she might stab us in the back, turning us into her puppets instead. Nagato chimed in, nodding in agreement. I support Obito. While I pity her, there's truth to the saying those who are pitiful often have done something detestable. Her heart is consumed by hatred. She'll stop at nothing for revenge. People like that can only be enemies, never allies. Shirsue fell silent, nodding reluctantly. He didn't press further. Seeing Shizzle's subdued mood, Obito decided to shift the topic. Pulling out a sample of Hashirama's cells, he grinned. These are cells from the first Hokage. They should significantly enhance your physical energy and reduce the strain from using your Sharingan. But, we'd better examine them first to make sure there aren't any traps. The three leaned in close, scrutinizing the cluster of cells with intense focus. Their Sharingan and one Rinnegan scanned it thoroughly. The cells appeared to be perfectly normal. Obito smirked. Well, Uchiha Setsuna really is interesting. Seems like she's honest about this, for now. Nagato, noticing the limited amount of cells, pointed to his Rinnegan with a smile. There's only enough for one person. You two take it. I don't really need it anymore. With his diminished Rinnegan abilities, Nagato's chakra expenditure wasn't as severe. Obito nodded. In that case, Shizzle, you take it. My Mangekyo powers are unique, I don't need the enhancement. Besides, I'm fine as is. A blatant. Shizzle hesitated but eventually relented. However, as he stared at the white mass of cells, he looked confused. How exactly am I supposed to use this? Obito's grin turned mischievous. Shizzle, do you trust me? The question sent a chill down Shishui's spine. His throat bobbed nervously as he instinctively stepped back. Half a minute later, Obito had Shishui shirtless, carving a small incision into his skin with a canal. Without hesitation, he pressed the clump of cells onto the wound. Shishui winced, biting back a groan. Obito. Are you sure this is how it works? This seems too crude? Obito chuckled. Relax. Trust me, it'll work. Would I lie to you? In the world of shinobi, transplanting eyes or Hashirama cells was as easy as plugging in a USB. Find the right spot, plug it in, and voila, good to go. Even if you got the spot wrong, just look at Danzo. He stuck eyes and cells everywhere, and they all worked. Sure enough, the cells fused with Shizzle's body, spreading rapidly like a virus. In the blink of an eye, they climbed up to his face. Obito's smile faltered. Rejection? Shizzle, use Betsugen Kami. Shizzle didn't need the reminder. His Mangekyo spun, and a four-pronged shuriken-like pattern appeared. Betsugen Kami. A surge of power enveloped him. The rebellious cells instantly submitted, retreating to their original position. The three let out a collective sigh of relief. Nagato glanced at Shizzle. Looks like it worked? After a moment of sensing the changes in his body, Shisui nodded with a smile. Yeah. It worked! Chapter 136, The Task of Unlocking Stage 3. Obito's face lit up with genuine joy. That's great! If his younger cousin were an NPC, he'd undoubtedly have the words, enhanced version, Shisui, floating above his head right now. With a Sharingan as overpowered as his cousin's, combined with the boost from Hashirama's cells, Shizer's strength had easily doubled. After sensing the changes in his body, Shizzle turned to Obito with a serious expression. Cousin, what's the next step in your plan? Obito opened his mouth to answer, but before he could, the familiar system notification echoed in his mind. Ding! A new choice has been issued. Option 1, Chaos in the Shinobi World? Eliminate the current 5 Kage and make the entire Shinobi world feel the terror of domination. Reward, Stage 3 Development. Option 2, Create your own faction. Assemble a team rivaling the Akatsuki from the original storyline. Reward, Stage 3 Development. Option 3, Assassinate Minato Namikaze and support Fugaku Uchiha in taking power, becoming the uncrowned king of Konoha. Reward, Stage 3 Development. T/N, it is about, Stage 3, completely eliminates Kammer's Toll. Grants access to advanced wood release. Stage 3 Development. Obito's eyes sparkled as he focused on the reward. With Stage 3 unlocked, he could use his Mangekyo Sharingan's abilities without any physical drawbacks. What's more, he'd finally be able to wield high-level wood release techniques. Let's go, he cheered inwardly. Obito had previously asked the system about advanced wood release techniques, and the explanation was simple: they were essentially Hashirama's signature jutsu. Of course, he could only unleash about a quarter of their full power, but even that was game-changing. For example, Hashirama's would release, true several thousand hands? In Stage 3, Obito could pull it off too, though he'd probably have to rename it something like would release, true 250 hands. There were also lesser techniques like wood release, small wood golem jutsu or small wood dragon jutsu. Just imagining himself standing amidst a crowd, shouting, "Prepare to witness my might. Release the pants." Would release, birth of the world of trees, made his blood boil with excitement. Shizzle sighed helplessly. Obito? He had initially thought his cousin was deep in thought, but the increasingly sly grin on Obito's face told a different story. Ah! Obito snapped out of it, quickly wiping away the drool at the corner of his mouth. I was just strategizing. Shizzle rolled his eyes, silently thinking. Yeah, right. Obito turned his attention back to the three options, his mind racing. Minato-sensei, why did you have to become Hokage? You've made things so complicated for me. What should have been a straightforward choice had turned into a single-option dilemma because of his teacher. Are you forcing me to be an exceptional student out of sheer necessity? Fine, whatever. In his past life, he had no say. In this life, he wanted to be a good disciple. Take it up with the author if you've got complaints like they'd let you off the hook. If Uchiha Setsuna's Sharingan could single-handedly raise an army, going up against her and Madara without additional support would be a nightmare. Creating his own faction was the logical move. It would save a lot of headaches in the long run. Obito made his decision swiftly. System, I choose option 2. Having made his choice, Obito turned to Shizzle and said, whether it's dealing with Setsuna or Madara, we can't rely on our strength alone. In the days to come, I plan to travel across the shinobi world and establish a faction powerful enough to counter them. Shizzle hesitated before speaking. Cousin, do we really have to go it alone? Couldn't we use the village's resources instead? If we inform the fourth Hokage, he'd surely support us with everything he has. We might even unite the 5 great shinobi nations to fight against Setsuna and Madara. Obito shook his head. Leaving aside whether this information would even be believed, acting under the banner of a village will only tie our hands. Nagato interjected with a cold laugh. Exactly. The great nation's shinobi villages can't be trusted. They're nothing but a pack of self-serving wolves. Working with them is doomed to fail. In this world, only the great nation's shinobi basked in the light, while those from smaller nations were left in the shadows, trampled and discarded. Nagato, whose parents had been killed by Konoha ninja, harbored an unshakable distrust for the great nations. Shizzle lowered his head, visibly frustrated. Obito sighed and patted Shizzur's shoulder. His younger cousin was inherently kind-hearted and, given his youth, still somewhat idealistic. Shizzle, when we return to the village, informed Minato-sensei. Obito's tone turned serious. Tell him someone is targeting the tailed beasts, aiming to use their power to upend the current shinobi world order. Let Konoha prepare accordingly. Leave the rest to me. Shizzle remained silent for a long while before finally looking up with determination. Obito, I want to join you. Obito blinked. Huh? Shizzle's voice was resolute. I want to join you and help defend the peace of the shinobi world. When we return to the village, I'll explain everything to the fourth Hokage and request permission to leave the village and assist you. I'm sure the Hokage will support my decision. This. Obito hesitated. But seeing the resolve in Shirsui's eyes, he eventually nodded. All right. Nagato, watching from the side, smiled. If you don't mind, I'll join you as well. Sure. Obito's expression turned peculiar. At this rate, the task didn't seem too difficult to complete. In just a few minutes, he'd already recruited 2 teammates. Meanwhile, in a hidden base, Black Zetsu stood before Uchiha Setsuna, his tone cautious. Setsuna, your plan failed? Of course, he already knew the outcome, but he felt obliged to ask for appearance's sake. Setsuna snorted, clearly annoyed. Yeah, it was a complete disaster. Satisfied? That's not what I meant. Black Zetsu feigned alarm, though inwardly, it was seething. This Uchiha Setsuna is useless. Just days ago, she'd been brimming with confidence, acting as though victory was assured. And now? Not only had she failed to recruit that brat Uchiha Obito, but she'd also exposed critical information and lost a clone in the process. Black Zetsu couldn't even muster the energy to complain anymore. If I'd just recruited Obito from the start, he'd have been 100 times more useful than her. Having lost all patience with Setsuna, Black Zetsu schemed inwardly. I already have the Rinnegan and a suitable vessel lined up. It's time to consider reviving Madara. Setsuna's abilities are lacking, and she might even harbor treacherous thoughts. Trusting her with the plan? Out of the question. Compared to her, Madara was far more reliable. Chapter 137, Shisui and Itachi, and Jiraiya. Grass Country Strategy. At the thought of this, Black Zetsu forced a faint smile and addressed Setsuna. A temporary setback paves the way for future success. A momentary loss is but a step toward ultimate victory. Setsuna-sama, you need not dwell on this matter. We can head to the land of grass first, retrieve that vessel, and reassess our next steps. Setsuna glanced at Black Zetsu with mild surprise. After a moment of contemplation, she nodded. Very well. She turned to Kujo Kuratsuru, who stood nearby. Kuratsuru, with Yagura dead, you can return to Kirigakure when you're free. See if. Never mind. Just act as the situation demands. If it proves futile, withdraw immediately. Abandoning Kirigakure entirely left Setsuna with a sense of unwillingness. She decided to send Kuratsuru to probe the situation. Kuratsuru bowed slightly and replied, understood. Setsuna gave a small nod and turned to Black Zetsu. Prepare to move. We're leaving soon. Black Zetsu grinned widely. As you command. Konohagakure, the Hokage's office. In the Hokage's office, Shizzle knelt on one knee, reporting the details of his mission to Minato. That's the general situation, Hokage-sama. Minato wore a thoughtful expression and sighed after a long pause. Obito wasn't wrong. While I personally support your actions, as the Hokage, I can't openly assist you. More than that, if your identities were exposed, I would have no choice but to publicly denounce your actions and list you as rogue ninja. Shizzle sighed, nodding in understanding. I came to the same conclusion on the way back. He raised his head to meet Minato's gaze. Hokage-sama, if you permit, I'd like to leave the village and lend my cousin a hand. Minato's expression turned serious. Are you certain you want to walk this path of no return, Shisui? Shizur's eyes reflected unwavering resolve as he nodded. Seeing this, Minato allowed a faint smile. If your mind is made up, I will support your decision. If you encounter difficulties, contact me anytime. I'll find a way to help you from the shadows. Shizzle bowed deeply. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Farewells. After leaving the Hokage's office, Shizzle returned home and informed his father, Uchiha Kawa, of his long-term mission. Kawa, who worked a 9-to-5 job in the Konoha police force, assured Shizzle he would look after his grandmother. After saying goodbye to his father, Shizzle headed somewhere familiar. There was one more person he needed to see before leaving. Campfire conversations. That evening, in a small forest within Konoha, Shizzle sat by a campfire. He skewered a fish over the flames and handed it to the boy sitting beside him. Itachi, you eat first. Itachi accepted the roasted fish politely. Thank you. Shizzle smiled warmly at him. You know, Itachi, I've always thought of you as my little brother. And I've always thought of you as my big brother. Itachi thought this but instead replied, Shizzle, the books say campfires at night are prohibited for safety. You must have a reason for lighting one, right? Shizzle laughed heartily. Ah, because sharing a meal with you helps me relax. Plus, eating something warm lifts the spirits. Hearing this, Itachi took a big bite of the fish and nodded earnestly. Warm food tastes the best. Shizzle's voice softened. Right? Here, have another? After they finished the fish, Itachi spoke thoughtfully. Shizzle, You spent all day training with me and now having dinner. Do you have something you want to tell me? Shizzle lay back on the ground, hands behind his head, gazing at the night sky. Yeah, I've been assigned a special mission. I'll be away from the village for a while. Maybe 3 to 5 months, or it could be 3 to 5 years. I wanted to let you know before I leave. Itachi silently nodded, unsure of what to say. The air grew quiet. Shizzle broke the silence with a smile. By the way, Itachi, during training today, I noticed something. You've just awakened your Sharingan, and there's a slight delay between your brain's predictions and your body's reactions. Don't force yourself to compensate for this delay like you did earlier, it's dangerous. Itachi pouted, clearly unhappy, but replied begrudgingly. I understand, Shursui-nil. Shizzle chuckled. Even the future one-man army revealed his childish side in front of him. After a moment, Shizzle spoke softly. Itachi, just remember one thing, I'll never betray you. I know. Akatsuki's headquarters. In the hidden Akatsuki village, Obito sat in Nagato's office, scribbling in a small notebook. If I don't count that trash black Zetsu, Akatsuki at full strength has, 10 members? That includes me, Nagato, and Shizzle. So, we still need to recruit 7 more Kage-level fighters. Maybe 8. He closed the notebook and leaned back in thought. Orochimaru, that sneaky traitor, could be an option. He'd at least fill a slot. But who else? Zabuza Momochi? A certain image popped into Obito's head. The real man among men in the ninja world. Danzo, clearly, you've never seen me stab a Susanoo with a kunai. Yeah, right. Like hell I'd want him. Obito scratched Zabuza's name off the list and decided he'd only consider him as a last resort. As Obito planned, Nagato entered the room, looking surprised. Obito, why are you here? Obito raised his head, equally startled. Huh? Nagato, what are you doing here? Nagato's expression turned slightly exasperated. This is my office. Obito laughed sheepishly. No need to draw such strict lines between us siblings, right? And you're Konan? She's mine now. Nagato rolled his Rinnegan eyes, clearly fed up. The last time I borrowed something from you, you didn't think this way. Obito coughed awkwardly. Ahem. That doesn't sound like me. Nagato raised a hand to cut him off. Enough, little junior. I came to discuss something serious. Jiraiya Sensei is here. Do you want to meet him? Obito froze. Jiraiya-sama is here? Nagato nodded. Yes, he's come specifically to see the 3 of us. But I don't think he knows you're here. Yahiko asked me to check if you wanted to meet him. Obito hesitated, then nodded. All right. Chapter 138, A Master and Disciple Dinner. Amigakure. Inside Yahiko's room, a deep, hearty laugh rang out. The laughter, carefree and unrestrained, could be heard from quite a distance. It belonged to none other than the white-haired man who could silence a crying child with his mere presence, the ever-charming Jiraiya. Holding a cup of sake in hand, he beamed. Nothing beats a little drink after wandering the world. This is the life. Yahiko quickly lifted his own cup and raised it in a toast. Sensei, let me pour another for you. Cheers! Jiraiya clinked cups with him and downed the sake in one gulp. He looked around at his former students, a wave of nostalgia washing over him. It's been so many years since we last met. You've all grown up. Especially you, Konan. Konan, ever blunt, replied without missing a beat, and you, Sensei, still haven't grown up at all. Scratching his messy hair awkwardly, Jiraiya let out a sheepish laugh. Ha ha ha. Well, you might have a point. By the way, where's Nagato? Why isn't he back yet? Here it comes! Just as the words left Jiraiya's mouth, the door creaked open, and Nagato walked in with a smile. Sorry to keep you all waiting. Sensei, look who I brought along. Jiraiya set down his cup and turned toward the door, surprised. Well, if it isn't Obito. What are you doing here? Obito grinned mischievously. Oh, it's a long story, Sensei. Jiraiya patted the seat beside him and gestured to the table filled with food and drink. Well, there's sake and plenty of food. Come, sit down and tell me all about it. I've got some questions for you, too. Obito and Nagato took their seats, and soon the room was filled with chatter and laughter. Starting with how he'd come to meet Princess Aim, Obito spun a long tale. Of course, when he got to certain sensitive details, he carefully glossed over them. Still, with his self-proclaimed role as the child of prophecy and his deeds in rescuing Yahiko and the others, Jiraiya didn't seem to suspect anything amiss. When Obito finally finished, Jiraiya stroked his chin thoughtfully. So, that rumor was true? You're the one who killed Danzo? Uncertain of Jiraiya's reaction, Obito hesitated for a moment before nodding. Yes. To his surprise, Jiraiya waved it off casually. Good. That bastard Shimura Danzo deserved it. Jiraiya had never been one to cling to rigid principles. In his eyes, anyone threatening Konoha was fair game. Sounds like something Tsunade would say, doesn't it? After all, in the anime, Jiraiya had once told Tsunade bluntly, if you ever betray Konoha, I'll be the one to kill you. T/N, it is true, this occurs when Tsunade is initially hesitant to accept the role of 5th Hokage and is being tempted by Orochimaru to heal his arms in exchange for the resurrection of her loved ones. Jiraiya bluntly tells Tsunade, if you ever betray Konoha, I'll be the one to kill you. Though it might have been just talk, it showed where his loyalties lay. Danzo, with his endless schemes and the damage he'd done to the village, had long been a thorn in everyone's side. If not for his ties to the 3rd Hokage, Jiraiya might have taken action against him himself. And to think that Snake had dared to target Jiraiya's students? Good riddance. Seeing that Jiraiya held no grudge, Obito breathed a quiet sigh of relief. The atmosphere at the table grew lighter. After a few more rounds of sake, Jiraiya's face was flushed, and he laughed boisterously. Looking back, my life's been one failure after another, but having you all as my students, well, that makes it all worth it. His gaze swept over Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan. Yahiko, Nagato, Konan, you've done an amazing job. You've truly brought peace to this land. Then, turning to Obito, he added, and you, Obito. You've grown too. There's a compass for justice in your heart now. My efforts back then weren't wasted on you. Obito scratched the back of his head, laughing awkwardly. Sensei, are you talking about that time in the hot springs? Or the beach massage trip? Jiraiya smacked him upside the head. You brat! I'm not taking you anywhere next time. Obito immediately backed down. Come on, Sense. I was just kidding. Take me along next time, will you? Konan interjected, her tone sharp. Sensei, you shouldn't be dragging Obito to those kinds of places. Jiraiya roared with laughter. Ha ha ha. Konan, you really don't know this kid at all. After another cup, Jiraiya's expression grew serious. His gaze became distant. All right, back to the matter at hand. Obito tilted his head. The matter at hand? Yahiko spoke softly. Nagato's eyes. Obito suddenly understood. No wonder they had called him here. Sensei, let me explain. I was involved in this as well. 500 words omitted for brevity. When Obito finished his story, Jiraiya's mood had shifted. He set down his cup, no longer in the mood for drinking. The Rinnegan, the Tau beasts, their ambition really knows no bounds. He looked at his students. Do you truly believe what they said? That Uchiha Madara is the one pulling the strings? Nagato nodded solemnly. Both they and I believe he is not lying. Obito's expression darkened as he added, regardless of who's behind it, we must be prepared for the worst. Nagato and I plan to assemble a force to counter their ambitions. Jiraiya smiled with pride. Good. If there's anything I can do to help, don't hesitate to ask. Seeing his students carrying on his ideals and striving for peace, Jiraiya felt a rare sense of fulfillment. At that moment, he thought that even if he were to die now, it would be with no regrets. Obito nodded firmly. Sensei, there is something I'd like to ask of you. Jiraiya leaned in. What is it? Obito hesitated, noticing Konan frantically signaling to him with her eyes. Realizing her intent, he quickly added. Could you also bring Lady Tsunade back to the village? In these turbulent times, every extra ally makes a difference. Jiraiya froze, his cup slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. Tsunade? Yahiko, stroking his chin, mused, Lady Tsunade is a shinobi of Sensei's caliber. His suggestion is quite reasonable. Nagato nodded. Yes, it's an excellent idea. Jiraiya flailed, his words tumbling over each other. L. Tsunade. She. Obito's eyes gleamed mischievously. Actually, I mentioned this idea to Minato-sensei before, but he said he couldn't manage it. He also said that in the entire shinobi world, only you could bring her back. But judging by your reaction, could it be that even you? Jiraiya coughed, straightening his posture. Ahem. With my relationship with Tsunade, convincing her is no problem at all. Leave it to me. Chapter 139, Journey to Kusagakure. I hope Jiraiya can find a good ending in this life, Obito thought to himself. Jiraiya had loved Tsunade all his life. Yet, because he was just a step too late back then, he missed his chance. Finally, he had worked up the courage to make a bet with her. But Tsunade, who always lost when gambling, won this time. Of course, there might have been another explanation. Perhaps Tsunade had never won a single bet, because deep down, she was gambling on his return. Obito chuckled inwardly. Jiraiya-sama, I've already come up with an excuse for you. Don't mess this up? Don't let me down. Dinner was nearly over. Konan and Obito were chatting at their table, while Nagato and Yahiko were with Jiraiya, drinking round after round. Nagato and Yahiko, now the leader and deputy leader of the village respectively, had built up impressive tolerances for alcohol. Jiraiya, though, was clearly struggling to keep up, albeit cheerfully. The land of grass, Kusagakure. Two figures cloaked in black strolled through the village streets. Their calm, composed manner was starkly out of place amidst the village's tense and fearful atmosphere. Uchiha Setsuna frowned. Has Kusagakure recently been through a war? Beside her, Black Zetsu nodded. Yes, Lady Setsuna. If I'm not mistaken, our target should be in the hospital. Setsuna nodded slightly. With a glance at a passing villager, she effortlessly read their memories. This way, she said. It wasn't long before the two arrived at the hospital. The small facility was packed with patients. Even the corridors were lined with injured people, a testament to the devastating toll on Kusagakure. Navigating the maze of overcrowded hallways, Setsuna stopped before a particular room. Inside, a red-haired woman lay unconscious on the bed, lifeless and pale. Around her, nearly a dozen Kusagakure shinobi were taking turns biting her, leaving her skin riddled with wounds. Her exposed flesh bore countless scars, with not a single unmarred patch remaining. Among the group were several particularly vile shinobi who, while siphoning her chakra, amused themselves by toying with her body. The grotesque scene before her shattered Setsuna's expectations of human depravity. What is this? Black Zetsu leaned closer to Setsuna's ear, explaining in a low voice. These Kusagakure shinobi are draining her chakra and life force through this method to quickly heal their own injuries. Their conversation caught the attention of the shinobi in the room. Hey, who are you two? One of them demanded. Setsuna's cold gaze fell upon the group. The next moment, all 7 or 8 Kusagakure shinobi reached for their weapons only to slash their own throats instead. Smiling eerily, they collapsed to the floor. Setsuna turned her gaze back to the woman on the bed, her expression conflicted. After a moment, she looked at Black Zetsu, her eyes icy. This is your so-called suitable target? Her chakra is almost entirely depleted. Black Zetsu gave an awkward chuckle. Well, she wasn't in such bad shape before. It paused, then added, however, she does have a daughter, about 4 or 5 years old. Perhaps, daughter? The woman on the bed trembled suddenly, as if she had regained consciousness. Struggling to open her eyes, she stared blankly in the direction of the voices. Setsuna met the woman's gaze and instantly absorbed her memories. After a brief silence, Setsuna spoke coldly. She'll do. With Hashirama cells transplanted, she should still be of some use. Black Zetsu hesitated. And her daughter? Setsuna fell into thought. If they left the girl here, her fate would likely mirror that of her mother. Take her back to the base as well, Setsuna decided. Black Zetsu's grin widened. Understood, Lady Setsuna. Outside the room, another group of Kusagakure shinobi arrived. When they saw the carnage within, their faces turned pale. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Ugh! Setsuna's left arm morphed into sharp wooden spikes, piercing through the shinobi's chests in one swift motion. Ah! Their screams echoed through the hospital, alerting everyone within earshot. Tisk, tisk, Black Zetsu remarked with amusement as it watched. I didn't expect you to act personally instead of using your Sharingan, Lady Setsuna. How rare. Ignoring the comment, Setsuna swung her transformed arm with ruthless efficiency, cutting down every Kusagakure shinobi who dared approach. 10 minutes later, the hospital floors were slick with blood, the corridors lined with corpses. The overpowering stench of Tron filled the air. Ha! Retracting her transformed arm, Setsuna exhaled in satisfaction. Let's go. Don't forget to bring the woman. Black Zetsu glanced around at the scene, a shiver running through it. Women are terrifying creatures, it muttered. Good thing I'm genderless. Boo-hoo! The land of rain, outside Amigakure. Jiraiya waved at his students. All right, no need to see me off. Go back now. Without looking back, he began walking away. Behind him, Obito called out, Jiraiya-sensei, make sure you bring Lady Tsunade back to the village. Jiraiya stumbled slightly at the words, nearly tripping over himself as he hurried off into the distance. Conan smiled at the sight. Judging by how nervous he looks, I'd say he's not very confident. Nagato chuckled. Be confident, Conan. Just drop the not very. Yahiko shook his head with a sigh. Ah, I wonder when our teacher will find his happiness. Obito rolled his eyes dramatically. Yahiko, aren't you being a bit hypocritical? You're not exactly young anymore. When are you planning to settle down yourself? As he spoke, Obito raised his hand, flashing his engagement ring with a smug grin. See? I am already engaged. Yahiko smacked him lightly on the head. Go, go! We know you're engaged. Stop showing off. Look at the state of the land of rain right now. With everything in ruins, I don't have time for such things. Obito nodded. Fair point, Yahiko. I won't push you, then. Yahiko breathed a sigh of relief, thinking his junior was unusually considerate today. But clearly, he had relaxed too soon. A second later, Obito turned toward Conan with a mischievous glint in his eye. But Conan isn't busy right now, is she? What do you think, Conan? Obito's words instantly triggered killing intent from both Nagato and Yahiko. Conan, however, simply laughed and teased, oh? I think what you really wants to know is whether I like Yahiko or Nagato more. Chapter 140, The Chosen Candidate. Curious, he turned his head to find that Nagato and Yahiko had already zoned out. After hearing Conan's words, both Nagato and Yahiko instinctively held their breath, excitement and nervousness swirling in their hearts. Who did Conan like more? Conan, no longer wearing a teasing smile, put on a serious expression and spoke with a straight face. Although I have feelings for both Yahiko and Nagato, I obviously can't marry two people at the same time. Hearing this, Yahiko and Nagato silently nodded in agreement. It seemed that one of them was destined to have a broken heart today. But that was fine. At least they still had each other, both thought simultaneously. Seeing their dejected faces, Conan couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into laughter. Ptahaha. But who said I can't marry both of you? Obito, 777. Nagato, 0. Yahiko, 777. Conan threw her arms around both of them, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Ha ha ha. You should have seen your faces just now. Too funny? Watching Conan happily hugging both men, Obito's expression turned serious. He gave her a thumbs up. Conan truly is a role model for our generation. In the secret base of Setsuna, a red-haired girl with round glasses anxiously glanced around. Karen. In the hall behind her, Setsuna observed the girl silently for a moment before turning to Black. Zetsu. You pushed me to retrieve the vessel so urgently, is it for reviving Uchiha Madara? Black Zetsu offered a wide smile. You jest, Setsuna. How could I presume to dictate your actions? Setsuna scoffed and waved dismissively. Say what you want. Reviving Madara is fine, but I have a few others to bring back as well. Black Zetsu bowed respectfully, a glint of cunning flashing in his eyes. Everything will proceed according to your will. Setsuna smirked, unimpressed. What's the status of that woman? Straightening up, Black Zetsu replied, she's been implanted with Hashirama's cells, but her body is severely overdrawn. It will take some time before she's usable. Setsuna nodded slightly. Till go check on her. You don't need to follow. Black Zetsu obediently sank into the ground. As you wish. Setsuna approached the room where the woman was kept. When she opened the door, the woman awoke instantly. Seeing Setsuna, her eyes filled with gratitude. You saved me. Where is this place? Setsuna's voice was cold. I only saved you because I have use for you. Don't waste your gratitude. Hearing this, the woman's expression dimmed, but she quickly lifted her head, her tone pleading. You can use me however you wish. Just, please save my daughter. I'll give you my life if it means she can live. She struggled to her feet and knelt on the floor, desperation etched across her face. Setsuna looked down at the woman and felt a twinge of discomfort in her chest. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Asterisk. Very well. Your life for your daughters, so she may live as an ordinary person. The woman was overjoyed, kowtowing repeatedly. Thank you. Thank you so much. Setsuna's chest tightened further. She turned and left, unable to bear staying any longer. Before leaving, she glanced back and couldn't help asking, Aren't you afraid I might be lying to you? The woman raised her head, blood trickling down her forehead but smiling through her tears. I don't think you would. You're different from those ninja from Kusagakure. Setsuna slammed the door shut, her voice ringing out coldly. Then you're mistaken. I am no benevolent person. Back in her room, Setsuna picked up a novel but couldn't focus, her thoughts a chaotic mess. Damn it! She tossed the book aside and stormed out, heading toward Karen's room. Minutes later, she pushed open the door, startling the young girl inside. Karen flinched at first but relaxed slightly upon seeing another human. Where is this place? She asked timidly. Earlier that evening, she had been resting at home when strange figures barged in, dragging her here without explanation. This is not a good place. That's all you need to know, Setsuna said coolly. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whimpered, How could this happen? Clutching Setsuna's sleeve, she begged, Please, send me back home. If my mother returns and finds me gone, she'll be so worried. Setsuna pulled her sleeve free, her voice icy. Your mother is dead. From now on, you'll stay here and go nowhere else. Mother, dead? Karen froze, her world shattering. Tears poured from her eyes like a flood. Wah! For the young Karen, losing her mother was like losing the entire world. How annoying, Setsuna muttered, leaving the room with a flick of her sleeve. Her irritation grew with each step. In Akatsuki village, inside Nagato's office. Obito glanced at his notebook, nodding in satisfaction. Yes, this plan is perfect. I'd give myself full marks, no less. His plan involved dividing his forces into two factions, an inner group, retaining the name Akatsuki, and an outer group he planned to call Yoru. The two factions would have distinct roles. Akatsuki would handle diplomacy and softer approaches, while Yoru would take on the more violent tasks. For the inner group, I need completely trustworthy people, Obito mused aloud. The outer group, they can be as ruthless as they want. Choosing members for the outer group was easy. Nagato's original plan provided a clear blueprint, and Obito had no qualms about copying it. But picking the inner group required more thought. He can join. Nagato counts 2, and Conan seems interested. Yahiko's too busy for this. That makes 3. I just need one more. Who should it be? Obito pondered for a while. After some thought, a name suddenly popped into his mind, and his eyes lit up. Got it. The former 5th Mizukage and now a rogue ninja of Kirigakure. Mei Terumi! That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 8. Peace.